The Starfield release date has a new theory, and if this theory is true, it means that the Starfield delay was actually planned. We're going to be taking a look at the theory, at the footage that has led to this theory. I'll do that right at the beginning of the stream. I'll talk about it. I'll give you all the details right here. This was a live stream, so that's why the video is a little bit longer. Hit subscribe and the bell button if you want to be a part of the live discussions. We have covered Starfield quite a bit, and we have an entire playlist of our coverage, and I like to do these little updates right at the beginning. This is a Reforge update. The Starfield release date now has a very plausible theory based on things contained in the actual footage that was revealed and released in June. Now, this does mean that maybe the delay was planned, and that calls into question a lot of things. Todd Howard saying the release date was set in ink. So we're going to look at what is the actual theory, why is it compelling, and what does this mean about the delay and Todd Howard. As always, hit subscribe and the bell button. That way you don't miss these quick updates. And check out Reforge Gaming, where I stream live. So PC Gamer reported on this and had the following to say. We don't know exactly when Bethesda's upcoming sci-fi RPG Starfield will launch, only that it will be sometime in the first half of 2023. But some fans think they've got it figured out. And while I'm not fully convinced by their argument, I have to admit it's impressive. So the article here, the author is saying they are not fully impressed or convinced by the argument, but what exactly is it? What are the clues? It all goes back to the official Starfield gameplay reveal on June the 12th, as YouTuber Lone Vault Wanderer tweeted the following day. The registration number on the ship is SV821393. Cool little Easter egg, 821393 is the patent number of the Wright brothers' famous flying machine. So, Birth of Flight, the Wright brothers, pretty cool little Easter egg. However, what does that have to do with the release date? Why is this leading to a release date theory? Patent 821393 was granted on May 22nd of 1906, but they actually filed for it on March 23rd of 1903. Now, this is where the theory starts to get to a reaching point. They're kind of reaching. March 23rd is seen as the potential go-to day because of the filing. That's sort of the real eureka moment. Hey, we could potentially fly, let's file the patent. And according to the leaker and the theory, Todd Howard really likes certain dates. One factor in favor of the March date was noted by Balrog229, somebody on Reddit, said, 3/23/23 seems to be a very Todd Howard kind of date, if you ask me. And Todd Howard admitted this in an interview in 2021 with IGN. He says, I like it visually. Skyrim was 11/11/11. And they did something similar with the original planned in-ink date for Starfield. So 3/23/23 has a really, really nice ring to it. And PC Gamer's not necessarily convinced, though. They said, honestly, I think the March 23rd theory is pretty unlikely. My personal feeling is that what we have is a very cool Easter egg, and they're chalking this up as just that. Now, keep in mind, March 23 is also a Thursday, kind of an awkward release date. It's not a Friday, it's not a Tuesday, it's a Thursday. So if they did decide to go with the March 23rd date, that would land on a very strange time in the actual week with relation to video game launches. However, if this theory is true and they put this patent number in the trailer to kind of give us a clue, that means that the delay was planned, which seems a little awkward given that Todd Howard said the date was set in ink and they just decided to, I guess, hype it up or something. I actually don't think that this was the original planned release date. If it releases on this date, it'd be a cool coincidence. I think the Easter egg planted there with the patent number was just something cool that they did with respect to flight and the history of flight. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Check out Reforge Gaming if you want to be a part of live discussions about these types of things. As always, hit subscribe and the bell button, and I'll see you in the next video. And I'll see the rest of you right now. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. excuse me, I'm convinced that this was probably just an Easter egg, right? I think the theory's pretty cool, honestly. I think 3/23/23 does have a great ring to it, feels very Starfield-esque, given the previous release date that they had planned for November. More often than not, delays like this are not something that they plan on, not something that they want to do, because, you know, the release date was something that everybody had really been hoping for, and fourth quarter releases are very, very good. I don't think that they were like, oh yeah, let's get out of the way of God of War Ragnarok. I think they genuinely are having trouble with this game with respect to the Xbox Series S. Isn't Thursday the most common release day for new games? No, the most common release day for new games is Tuesday, not Thursday. Yo, what's good, Feed? How are you? Tuesday is the most common Western release date for media, albums and video games, as well as movies. Well, maybe not movies, but albums, actual, you know, if you want to get your latest album from your favorite band, Tuesday was the release date, and then Friday was sort of the global release date. You know, a lot of people like to release on Friday, so Thursday is a kind of an awkward release date, honestly. Good morning, Feed. Good morning, Victor. Good morning, everybody. What's good, Mass Produce? Quiet Shy says, every time I hear the name Todd Howard, I picture Ron Howard from Happy Days. Good morning, says Hilly. If the date is written in ink by Todd was still wrong, I don't buy any internet investigation about his dates. The game is still being worked on, and they don't have a date. So Hilly thinks they don't have a date. Let's poll the audience here on this one here. Starfield release date. When is it happening, right? Let's see. Do you guys like the 3/23/23 date? We'll do middle of 2023, and then we'll do end of 2023. So I'm going to give you the choice of well, we could do early 2023, and not be on that March date. But I feel like those are your three choices. March 23rd, middle, or end. I don't know, man. This bunch makes a good argument. With respect to what? What are people saying? I always thought Tuesdays were odd, too, because why not release on a Friday so kids can play the game all weekend? Wasn't there another reason why releases happen on Tuesday? Why do new releases happen on Tuesday? I thought there was a weird reason why. One explanation is Billboard magazine, which publishes its charts on Wednesdays. If you release an album on a Tuesday, then you get the maximum 7 days of sales counted toward your goal. So that's a theory as to why albums were releasing on a Tuesday. Historically, Tuesday morning is the most popular time to send out news releases, according to Quora.com. So there's a history surrounding Tuesday being a day good for news, press releases, as well as the Billboard charts with respect to albums. And since people just grew accustomed to that, maybe that's when they just started saying, hey, let's just do video games on Tuesdays as well. Yep, since charting is based on weekly sales, I thought music was for the chart sales. Yeah, so Hilly and Omar knowing the answer before I state it. Stock shipments on Monday. It's possible, yeah, that shipments on a Monday. Monday's a great shipping day back when they had to, ship physical discs. Derek says, Howard always makes me think of old school Nintendo Howard Phillips. The bow tie guy from the Big N was still cool. I don't remember that. Atomic T says, end of 2023, wiggle room for development time and holiday release, high chance of a 2023 delay. So Atomic T thinks this thing might get pushed into 2024. I don't necessarily think I agree with that. I don't think this thing's getting pushed back that far. I do think the delay is primarily related to the Xbox Series X. I think that's a solid theory. I think it's sort of like a quietly known thing that it is. That's when they decided to. That's what made them decide to push it back. They said all games shown are going to get released within the last 12 months of the time span, didn't they? They did say that, Blob. So I do not think that Starfield is going to land any later than the summer. I really don't. That's my personal opinion. I think this thing is running into problems with the Series S with respect to optimization, but I don't think this game is in like trouble or whatever. Lono's too young. I still remember Howard and Nestor. I mean, I'm not that much younger than you guys. I mean, I was right behind you. I think their release date will be directly tied to the new version of the Series S or a dumbed-down version of Starfield, so March sounds about right, says Creature. I'm thinking March for sure, says Tony. Yeah, make sure and take the poll at the top of the chat. Starfield release date. When is it happening? A lot of people are liking that 3/23/23 date, and then middle of 2023, and then end of 2023. So there's some disparity. There's some disparity between the two. Why my offending everyone strategy? That's going to be our short for the day. Is solid. We'll go with what do we think? We'll go with the hashtag of comedy and shorts. We don't need any other tags. The thumbnails for shorts are terrible. That's my least favorite thing about them. They pick like the worst screenshots. I'm like making these horrible faces. Todd always chooses solid-looking dates. Just makes sense, says Tony. Yeah, I mean, he literally said in an interview that he likes to pick, dates that are. He likes to do that. He likes to pick dates that look cool. I mean, he all but said that in an interview. So in my mind, 3/23/23 has a nice ring to it. It is, again, I do think it is a little awkward to have it landing on a Thursday. Where are we going? We don't need tags. Yeah. Hashtag Reforge. Yeah, I mean, maybe we could use hashtag Reforge Gaming. I think Reforge might be too generic. We might have to start using that hashtag, though. That's probably a good idea. Starfield looked rough. It didn't even run at a solid 30, says CR3D. Excalium says, I think it'll be 6/6/23 or 5/5. The reason they liked 11/11 was because the month and the day could be reversed. Following, I think it's May or June. All right, okay, so you think this is not a bad theory. We could start looking at dates then where the number would match. So 3/3/23 sounds really good, and that's a Friday. So Excalium, I like that. 3/3/23 also sounds pretty good. That doesn't have anything in it would be in the same month as the Wright brothers thing. 3/23/23. It is funny that just happens to line up or whatever. Now he just responds to one of my comments. I did say rarely. What do you mean rarely? I try to read as many comments as I can. It only looks good in the wonky US way of doing dates. Can you give the theory some context? I mean, what context is needed? Did people not know? Well, I guess, okay, so if you weren't here for the show open, there's a number on the side of the ship in the trailer. That number is the patent number that the Wright brothers submitted for their flying machine, and they submitted it on March 23rd. So people are thinking, oh, now they got it like 3 years later in May or something, okay? So they didn't get the patent until May. So the patent number of 821393, and then May 22nd is when they got it. But they submitted it in March 23rd. Oh, it's also on some weapons. Okay. I kind of like 3/3/23. I think that honestly sounds better than 3/23/23. I think that 3/3, just came in. That sounds like some conspiracy. What do you mean conspiracy? You think they accidentally picked the patent number of the Wright brothers' famous flying machine and they put it on stuff in the game? You think that was an accident? They just stumbled upon a series of numbers, 821393. Come on, man. There's no way that's just pure chance. I'm not doing some conspiracy theory stuff, but hey, it's early in the morning. Have you had your coffee yet? Are you a coffee drinker? You are. You said you're a coffee. Well, nice to meet you. You should try some Reforge Roast. It has balanced acidity, and as a coffee drinker, you owe it to yourself to try it. This guy says, STFU, little dude, you ain't on you spreading hate? What do you mean he's spreading hate? How is he spreading hate? There were performance issues in the video, homie. Settle down. There's no reason to be rude to somebody just because they're expressing, he didn't express hate. He said that it barely held 30. The frickin' video had performance issues. Yours just finished brewing. There you go. They accidentally put the 100th anniversary of the Wright brothers in several places in the game. Yeah, they just fell backwards into that. It was a total accident, right? The coffee plug is almost as smooth as the coffee itself. That's right. Matasbo coming in and hitting a 9-month milestone as a member. Team Dark Roast. Guys, we're barely above 1,000 members. Help us keep the member numbers up. We want to hit 1,500, so Madam has to play Elden Ring again. So feel free to jump in as a member for $5 or gift some members as well. Keep us above at least that 1,000 milestone. Holy moly. The frame pacing was hot garbage. I hope they can optimize that better. Looking forward to this game. Yeah, I don't know if it's the 100th anniversary, but it is the date that it's the patent number that has my attention. I don't think it's the actual 100th anniversary, is it? But the fact that they accidentally put the patent number of the Wright brothers flying machine in the game, that can't be an accident. Agreed. I like 3.323 the most, but I think that they would be. I don't think they would be ready that soon. Given that they said first half of 2023, I'll think they'll use the most time as they can. That's good pushback, Excalium. I think that's fair pushback. It really is. They said first half, which means they want to give themselves wiggle room. Which means the third day of March is a little early. 4.423 would be a Tuesday. 5.523 would be a Friday, and 6.623 would be a Tuesday. So April, May, and June all have exactly perfect release dates. If they want to do the day-month thing. That was what Excalium said. Hey, they like when the day and the month are the same, and they might end up do that. If they go for July 1623, that's 54 years after the moon landing. Okay, my fault. It's the 120th. Oh, is it actually the 120th? Is it really? If you want conspiracy, a black hole created all life in the universe, and it will be the end of the universe. Yeah, I mean that's not bad. Is that a conspiracy or a scientific theory? I think that's more theory than conspiracy. Both Lono and Madam need to play Cuphead. That's an easy slam dunk idea. Doesn't even need to be thought about. Easy content. Oh yeah, the new Cuphead DLC. Would you like to see us play that this Friday? Well, I'm gonna require a minimum of 1,000 members for that. If we dip below 1,000, we're not playing Cuphead. That'll be a goal. 1,500, and she has to go back into Elden Ring. Han shot first. That's not a theory. That's a fact. There's a difference between theory and fact. And the fact of the matter is he shot first in the original movie. Anybody who thinks otherwise is either too stupid or too young to know the truth. That's the facts, Jack. March 23rd, 2023 would mark exactly 120 years since the Wright brothers' first patent, and that this date would also be a Thursday when games traditionally release in the U.S. Who the frick wrote this? Games do not traditionally release in the U.S. on Thursday. That's fricking dumb. What article said that? Who's the dum-dum that wrote that? Where do they live? In a hut? In some remote village? That's not true. Our games traditionally release on Tuesdays. Who the That's not okay. Everything else is great. Is that actually true? PCGamesN.com. I was gonna say PC Gamer wrote that. Yeah, I don't know where PCGamesN.com is where they reside, but that's not friggin' true. I can't believe they're in the gaming industry and they don't know that games traditionally launch on a Tuesday in the United States, not Thursday. These days, early access, it's like Thursday night at midnight Eastern. Oh, do you think that's what they mean, Chris? But even then, we typically don't do that. We typically have launched on Tuesdays over the years. Because when a game released on a Friday recently, I was like, Friday? That's kind of strange. And people were like, well, not outside of America, it's not. Normalized Friday releases. I don't have enough vacation days for these middle-of-the-week releases. So far in the woods that the electrons take 2 extra days to get there. Last mile is by a squirrel. Some of your products expired on... Oh, we know that. We don't want those domains anymore. Always been Friday? I would swear I always get new games Thursday at midnight. Okay, Thursday at midnight, okay, first and foremost, that's Friday. And secondly, I am telling you right now that Tuesday has been a very, very common release date. Midnight on Thursday is technically 12 a.m. Friday. They're almost always Friday releases. Am I nuts? Am I having some kind of a what's that thing where you believe something about the past that isn't true? Mandela effect? Am I having a Mandela effect right now? It's been Tuesday for a very long time in the UK, also for a lot of games. That's what I'm saying. It's been Tuesday. It's not because I covered Destiny for 7 years. Like Tuesday was the release date for so many games for the last couple of years. I don't think this is Mandela. I really, really don't. I think this is... That article is just written by a liar. That's it. That's what I'm saying. Tuesday release is traditional. Early access is typically Friday. Tuesday was new music as well. Yeah, I'm telling you, I remember specifically going to the store and GameStop and stuff on Tuesday mornings to get new games. I remember doing that. Tuesday's the traditional. Friday replaced it about 7 or 8 years ago. Well, how can it be traditional 7, 8 years ago? It's been shifting to Friday a little, but Tuesday's the traditional. Okay, I was going to say, I'm not losing my dadgum mind. I was like, come on now. If you're just tuning in, we're discussing the Starfield release date, all right? There's a release date theory that it's going to be 3/23/23 because that's when the Wright brothers submitted their patent for their flying machine, and the patent number is in the trailer numerous times. Yo, what's good, Willie? Wouldn't you be going to school on a Tuesday morning? Not as an adult, no. I worked a job where I had like the ability to go to GameStop when it opened. I think my shifts were like 11 to something. I worked 4/10s. 4/10s. It was great. It means I had 3 days off throughout the week. It was wonderful. I never worked more than 2 days in a row. It was fantastic. God of War Ragnarok is on a Wednesday. They're doing that because Wednesday's Odin's Day. Like, they're being cheeky. That's not common. That's actually them being funny. Fallout 4 was a Tuesday. Skyrim was a Friday. Okay. 4/10s would be lovely. Oh, it was fantastic. It was a little long because it was call center, but it was wonderful. Like, any day I was working, I was either heading to my day off or only having one more day to work. It was like, work 2 days off, work a day off, work a day off. Oh my gosh, it was wonderful. It was so freaking wonderful. 4/10s, gang. Tomorrow's my Friday. Dude, 4/10s is so good. How long is the shift? I'm saying it, 4/10s. 11/11/23 is a Friday. Yeah, they clearly like Friday. Well, maybe they don't like Fridays. They liked the date. Todd Howard said in an interview with IGN that he just really liked that date. So, yeah, the set-in ink date was 11/11. So if they're shooting for a Friday again, we just combed through April, May, and June of next year if they like that dating format. 5/5/23 is a Friday, and then 6/6/23 is a Tuesday. 7/7/23, that's a Friday in July. 7/7/23, and sevens are cool numbers. So, 5/5/23 or 7/7/23 if they want to keep the numbering and that they want to keep that Friday release. Red Dead Redemption 2 was Thursday at 1 a.m. No idea what that was in U.S. I mean, some games, they just do whatever the frick they want. You know what I'm saying? Some days they do whatever they want. All right, come on. Who's the first coffee order of the day, and who's going to be the first member of the day? Let's go. If you're on YouTube and you're new to live streams, we do memberships. We don't do ads. I'm not running ads. I'm not disrupting the stream. But we do memberships, and we do members-only content for those members every day of the week, as well as Friday nights. You're going to want to jump in. It's $5. Click that blue join button or the link below, or you can type !join in the chat. 5 days a week isn't long if you don't deal with the public. As a resident nerd being in the quality department, it makes my job so good. Oh, golly, if you face the public, it doesn't matter how many days a week you work. You want to tear people's faces off some days. It's rough. Tuesday is the standard day. The same way split screen is the standard way to play multiplayer. yeah, that's it. You've got to do split screen. That's true multiplayer. There's no other. Wait, the Wright brothers patents 821393. How is that tying it to 32323? So the Wright brothers submitted for the patent on March 23rd. They didn't get it until May, like 3 years later, because, the government. These guys are like, we might be able to fly. Here's our patent. And they're like, yeah, okay. We'll get to it tomorrow. 3 years later, they were granted the patent. I agree, someday you just wake up and choose violence. Yeah. I love having my own schedule, being that I own and operate my own big rig. Well, there you go. That's the way, man. That's literally the way of the road. Keeps face covered in case Lono goes into face ripping rampage. That's come in with your face covered with your hands. Also, they really didn't learn if they're dropping date hints. Well, if they're dropping date hints, Eugene, this is where I say the theory falls apart, okay? Let's critique the theory. Number one, they would have had to have known that this was the release date ahead of time if it was already baked into all the footage and the guns and the ships, which means that the date set in ink was basically a lie. I don't think that they would do that. I don't think after what happened with Fallout 76, somebody in the marketing department was like, I've got a really good idea. Let's set a date, have Todd Howard say it's set in ink, but what we're really going to do is delay it to March so we can put these cool Wright Brothers patent numbers in the trailer. I think that absolutely shoots the theory in the leg. Just no, this thing's not getting any traction because they would have had to have known so far in advance. Now, somebody might push back and say, well, the delay was a decision that they knew well ahead of June. They announced it well ahead of June. That would have given them ample time to go back into this footage and add those numbers. Okay, maybe. Like, if they knew we need another cool date, we need another cool way to announce this. Is there enough time between when they made the decision to delay, not when they announced it? Because when they made the decision to delay, that was likely a week or two, maybe more, maybe a month before they announced. Around that time, was there enough time between that and June to say, hey, let's adjust the trailers a little bit. Let's slap some numbers. We were going to do some Easter eggs anyway. Let's do these Easter eggs and let's plan to release on the 23rd. Now, if that was the case, why would they say first half of 2023? Unless in their mind you say, oh, first half of 2023, so when you reveal the March number, everyone's like, oh goody, that's really early in 2023. They said first half, it's actually going to be really, really early. I think this gets so convoluted that Occam's razor doesn't work. Like this, there's too many factors to this to be true, right? Occam's razor would say, the most minimal amount of explanatory pieces needed is the most likely answer. So it's like we have too many things required for this theory to hold water. Number one, they would have had to make the decision early enough to allow them to put all these numbers on the ships and the guns. Number two, you would have had to have then known that the actual date that the patent was submitted was the date you were going for. And you'd have to say, oh, we really want to release the game on a Thursday now. Like, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it's a fun Easter egg. You'd also have to see when was the earliest time these numbers were seen. Were these numbers seen before June? Was any of this footage in circulation before June, and then were those numbers there? If those numbers were added after the fact, I think the theory gets up and starts walking again, right? Occam says the patent number is an Easter egg that's been in there forever, and people are stretching hard with the date. Right, so we have to ask the question, where can these numbers be seen? And then, is any of that footage already out in circulation? And if the numbers were changed, I actually think the theory gets back up and starts walking again, because it's like, hey, whoa, they changed those numbers. That might actually point to something they did late game as an Easter egg thumbnail, Easter egg teaser. They wrote the 11/11/22 date in ink, and then the dev said, this game isn't ready. Maybe check with us before you get your frickin' fountain pen out, Todd. That's right. Why is the floor wet, Todd? How does the 11/11/22 date fit into your theory? Why set that date then? It doesn't fit into the theory, Tommy. Maybe you just got here. I said that the date set in November and saying it's set in ink, I think that shoots this theory right in the leg. This theory doesn't get any traction at all. Because why would you do that? If oh yeah, we're going to release the game in March 23, put a bunch of cool Wright Brothers patent numbers in the trailer, it's going to be awesome. Well, then why in the blue frick would you have Todd Howard walking out to the public and saying, oh, hey, yeah, we got a date for you, 11/11, it's set in ink. You're exactly right. You might have just missed me saying that. It absolutely kills the theory dead practically. It's just the designer's favorite football players, Ozzie Newsome, Dan Marino, and Dwight Freeney. It's not bad, Zubair, until you get to Dwight. It's like, oh yeah, Ozzie, Dan, Dwight Freeney. Like, it's like, oh, maybe believable until you get to the final guy. Then you're like, no, I don't think so. Todd off the rails. You remind me of Terminator 2 when you say Todd. Oh, yeah, Todd. Yeah. He doesn't like his foster parents. What's the dog's name? What's wrong with Wolfie? Wolfie's fine. Due to ladder issues, we needed to postpone the release until November of 2023. That's right. Freeney was an animal. Oh, was he? I maybe that's me then. I recognize the names Ozzie Newsome and Dan Marino. I don't recognize Dwight Freeney. There are not a lot of 93s running around. I'm sorry I didn't have more time to research my wise remarks. Apparently Dwight Freeney was a beast. I just didn't recognize the name. Yo, what's good, Mike on the mic? How are you? What's good, Raging Snake? Good to see you. Come on, chat. Come on. Where is it? I'm checking my email. Let's see what do we have a first coffee order of the day? No first member of the day yet. No first coffee order of the day yet. Come on, someone jump. Get the train started. The gun has a number 2024 for sure. Oh yeah, that's definitely when it's coming out. That gun has the number 24 on it. You're looking for the numbers 821393. When was the earliest that these numbers were seen in any of the footage, right? Starfield official teaser trailer. Are the numbers anywhere in the teaser? That's the first time they showed the game. Okay, so comb over that and get back to me. Dwight Freeney and Robert Mathis were the edge rushers during the pinnacle of Peyton Manning's tenure on the Colts. Oh, I didn't... Really? You know what's funny is that was back when my wife and I really liked watching football because she liked the coach. She liked Tony Dungy. Like she has his family and my wife's family have actually been in circumference, and he's like a super nice guy. Since you're from Ohio, maybe you recognize Michael Dean Perry as someone who wears 93. No, Striker1 says, I believe 3/23 was the real release date, and Microsoft wanted it sooner, so 11/11, but Todd had it pushed back. Really? That's what you think? Why are you coming in here hands on your hips? Because I was trying to be generic. I wasn't going to be like, here's the specific details of how they're connected to the Dungy family. I was just being generic. The Dungies are so nice. They're really genuine. Okay, we're not talking sports ball chat. We got a show to run. I don't remember Bethesda ever delaying a game after announcing a date, says Awesome Guy. Is this bad news, or are they actually going to release the game with minimal bugs? Well, what Striker1 just said, you know what's funny about that? That sounds really plausible, given everything we talked about yesterday with Halo Infinite and Microsoft, right? Think about this with me for a second. Bethesda's like, dude, 3/23, dope number. It sounds good. 3/23/23, Wright Brothers patent number, super cool Easter egg. Microsoft walks in the room and is like, hey, we own you now, and we really want a November release date. Can you make it happen? And they're like, well, not really. And they're like, well, you better, because if not, we're going to make you do the 18-month attrition rate that poor 343 has gone through. Like, Microsoft starts to feel more and more like a big problem in these equations when you really think about it. Like, it wouldn't surprise me at all if, like, Jason Schreier's writing some article late next year that's like, Microsoft was the cause of the woes with the release date of Starfield. Microsoft forced Bethesda to optimize the game for the Series S. Microsoft forced them to pick the November release date. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying that's what's happening, but if there was an article that said all that, I'd be like, that tracks. Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds like Microsoft. They feel like the bull in the china shop with their own dadgum developers lately. You know, like, hey, we really need your game to land on the Series S, and they're like, what? No, we were building this game for a long time. It's not. No, it can't. You better figure it out. We own you now. How are you drawing that conclusion? I haven't drawn a conclusion. I have said that if that becomes revealed later, it wouldn't surprise me at all that Microsoft got in the room and started shoving Bethesda around and was like, we would like an 11/11, and we would like you to make this thing run on the Series S. And Bethesda's like, what? No, we can't do that. We certainly can't do both. They would be making more ports otherwise. What are you talking about? That they would have been way harder? What are you talking about? Well, you're not making any sense. I'm making perfectly good sense. We just read yesterday that 343 and the woes of Halo Infinite is most likely blamed in large part on the 18-month contract policy of Microsoft, and that roughly 50% of the employees at 343 are contracted. So it stands to reason that Microsoft's treatment of their developers, since they can't seem to keep them for very long or do much with them, it stands to reason that there might be a factor here of Microsoft getting in the room and messing with, like, timelines, messing with, like, it, like, you. So you think when Bethesda was making Starfield, they knew that they were going to be owned by Microsoft and they were going to have to make it run on an inferior console? You think they knew all that when they were building this game? There was never a time when this game was not planned to run on the Series S. Why? Why are you presuming that? You know? Making the Series seems smart, but it may have been a mistake. They need to make every game for the Series X and then port it back to the Series S. Yeah, potentially. I mean, but that still is going to be an issue for optimization. In Microsoft's defense, 343 did manage to piss away $500 million. They might have to cut back. Yeah, maybe. I think they plan this game to be PS5 and Series X only. I am in agreement with that. I am actually in agreement with that. It's a third-party game. They don't know you jack squat, okay? Bethesda doesn't know you jack squat when this is a third-party game, okay? Remember, there was rumors it was a PS5 timed exclusive. That's right. So, they don't know you jack squat. So, when they make their game, they could be like, this is going to be PS5, PC, and Series X only. 100% they have every right to do that as a third-party developer at the time. Changed. So, Paul's saying the numbers changed. Oh, boy. Oh, no. Oh, man. So, wait. Hang on. That the theory is up. The theory is alive. It's alive. Could be a different ship. It looks like a different ship, doesn't it? Hang on. Look at the undercarriage. You checked that on dogs, right? You checked on animals. No, that's the same. That's the same ship, isn't it? Zoom and enhance time. I don't know. That might be a different ship. That's hard to tell. The angles are funky. Some of the pieces, parts, and colors look the same. That theory might be alive. It's not standing very strong, but it might still be alive. It's on life support right now. Same ship, different number area, says Eugene. Okay, Fuzzy says, I slightly misspoke. What I mean to say is, once Bethesda sold to Micro, they knew from that moment, if not before, that it had to be on the Series X. You think Microsoft sprung that on them at the last week? No, homie. No. I don't think they sprung it on them last week. How long do you think it's taken them to get that thing to do what it needs to do? Right? I'm not saying that Microsoft walked in the room in May of this year before all the Summer Game Fest, and they're like, surprise, this thing needs to be on the Series S. And Bethesda was like, huh? I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm saying Series S runs on par with the PS5. How's it underpowered? You have bad information, my friend. I'm not going to hit you too hard for that statement, but what you just said is silly, is actually silly in light of the facts. You have bad info. No third party has skipped Series S yet. They're going to start, my friend. They're going to start. Listen to me. I love my Xbox Series X, and I really want Starfield to be amazing. I am not a hater, but I'm telling you right now, okay? Third-party devs are going to start skipping the Series S. You just write that down, and you put that on your refrigerator with all the other predictions that I've made, okay? Well, early November for God of War Ragnarok. No way, Lono. No way. What's the release date of Ragnarok? Oh, yeah, I have a gut feeling Forspoken's going to get delayed. No way. No way. What happened with Forspoken? Put that next to all those other predictions. Third-party devs are going to start skipping the Series S when they're making a next-gen game. Write that down. There are already devs speaking about that thing. There is literally no way that if you're trying to make some balls-to-the-wall next-gen game, you're going to want to fiddle around with that thing. Number one, if you're making a third-party game and it needs to run on PC, Series X, and PS5, you're already dealing with increased necessary bandwidth and development time. Do you want to add into that new optimization struggles? You're incorrect about the technical abilities of the Series S. How? Developers have already talked about the memory bottleneck. What are you talking about? It's a weaker system. These are facts, not opinions. I am not saying that it's a bad system. Don't presume what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying. It has technological limitations that will require a developer to spend more time optimizing their game to run on that system. These are facts. This isn't my opinion. The Series X is crap, and that is why they're available everywhere. Coming from an Xbox person, they will stop making things compatible for the S because it just can't keep up. The Series S just runs at lower res. Most settings have been consistent with the Series X. They'll start skipping X when Series X is running on 1080 or 1440. Right now, Series X runs things at some form of 4K. LOL, no game is using the full power of the new series consoles. Are you laughing in agreement with me? It sounds like you might be. Because if they start leveraging the full power of the PS5 and the Series X, what in the frick are they going to do with the Series S? Well, no, devs won't leave that money on the table. They won't leave the S behind. They will not push the X to the limits. Okay, hang on. Track with my argument, Ant. Track with me here. Okay, I'm zeroing in on somebody in chat. I'm gonna have a debate with them. Track with me here. You're saying they won't leave those sales on the table. Okay. Keep in mind, I am talking about third-party developers that are making a next-gen game that they want to see land on PC, PS5, and the Series X. You think, in the grand scheme of things, they're worried about the Series S consumer base, that they're going to add all that extra development time, optimization, and challenges. Like, talk to a developer about what you have to do with your game to make it run on an old system. Like, think about this with me for just a second. Why do you think game developers are going to start leaving behind the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One? Why? It's too limited. It would require tons of time and effort to port games back there, to make them runnable and optimized on those systems. How long do you think it's going to take for developers to conclude that about the Series S? Well, golly, this is just not worth the trouble. It just isn't. I don't think it's going to take very long. The Series S is the best 1080p next-gen console. I think that's enough for a lot of people. We are the 1% that demand 8K 240. Now, what Zubair is saying is a factor. The Series S saturation is actually really good. So that adds some weight to Ant's pushback. Ant F is saying they're not going to leave that money on the table. That adds some credence to your point that, like, that's a lot of dadgum customers. But when you compare it to PS5 and PC, do you think they're worried about Series S? I just don't know. The Series S could be like the Cyberpunk debacle. That's exactly right. This is getting off topic, but does anyone know when the new Star Ocean's coming out? No. Brad Man with a $5 tip through Super Chat. I feel like the S is made for someone who just wants a new quick console to play Game Pass games on, and that's it. I agree with you. And thank you for the $5 tip. You're acting like the Series S is some piece of crap console that can't run anything. Nope, that's projection. I never said that. I even just moments ago pushed back on that and said, stop presuming what I'm saying and listen to what I'm saying. Never once said that it's a piece of crap that can't run anything, right? It's just a downscaled resolution. It is the same tech base, my guy. I just don't necessarily think you're grappling with the entire situation. I don't. The Red Dragon tweeted, Digital Foundry heard from multiple developers that the Series S is a pain. We are still at the beginning of this generation, and the S is already constrained with memory issues. Digital Foundry, an authority in the industry on performance benchmarks and optimization of games, the Digital Foundry heard from multiple developers that the Series S is a pain. We just started this generation of console, and they're coming out of the gate hamstrung. Come on. I'm not being a hater. This is just a fact. This is a reality. To be that dude, if it's a game coming to PC, they're already going to have the average slowest graphics and CPU. The S is better than those, I'm sure. Now, that's not bad pushback, Butters. If it's a third-party game that can run on lower end rigs, for sure, but you got to go back to my original statement, Butters. I'm very careful when I string sentences together. I'm very careful as an orator. I said third-party developers that are making next-gen games that they would like to land on the PC, PS5, and the Series X will start skipping the Series S. There are plenty of next-gen games coming out. There are plenty of next-gen games coming out that are not going to run on low rig computers. They just aren't. That's a thing that happens. You know that, right? Like, some games are just too demanding. Like, try and play the Death Stranding Collector's Edition on a freaking weak rig. It probably runs like absolute garbage falling down a hill. No way. There are plenty of games that you're not going to be able to boot up on your weak PC without noticing, like, I'm not really getting my money's worth here. This runs bad. Why are you reading tweets from the Red Dragon? That guy is bottom barrel fanboy trash. I don't really care what you think about him. Digital Foundry heard from developers about the Series S. We've read this in articles too, by the way. So dismissal is the weakest form of argument. Like, you're not engaging with what's being said. You're dismissing the source. Like, you're dismissing the info because of the source. There are other sources that have cited this reality, that developers have talked about. That memory constraint is a problem. They're trying to do all these new, great, awesome things, and you got a system with weaker memory. Here are some comments from actual devs. Here we go. This memory situation is being regarded as a major issue by id Software, id Software lead engine programmer Billy Kahn, and principal engine programmer Axel Nading. Both programmers seem to agree that the much lower and slower amount of RAM inside the Series S will be hard to compensate. Do you understand who's about to speak to you? Do you know who's about to talk? These are gods in the industry. Gods. We're talking about the lead engine programmer at id Software and the principal engine programmer at id Software. You're about to hear from gods in the industry, giants in the industry, and this is what they have to say. This is from Axel. Also, it always scaled on PC is nonsense. So this is pushback on the idea of things just can always be scaled on PC. Every AAA game in the past decade or so has their assets made once so they run on min spec. Increasing sample counts a bit here and there for high settings isn't what you could truly have done with more power. Min spec matters, okay? Holy moly, Mr. Glum just gifted 10 members. Eric, Zach, Earthbound, Hermes, Raymond, GNS, Spartan of Doom, Bear on a Sled, Apollyon, and Daniel. Let's keep the member train going, guys. All 10 have been claimed. Mr. Glum, thank you. That's so generous. And thank you for hitting a 4-month milestone and for doing a tier 3. Who else is going to give some members? Who else is going to become a member? So this guy's saying min spec matter. So if the Series S has this min spec memory bottleneck, that matters when you're developing a game, okay? Here's Billy Kahn. The memory situation is a big issue on the S. The much lower amount of memory and the split memory banks with drastically slower speeds will be a major issue. Aggressively lowering the render resolutions will marginally help, but will not completely counteract the deficiencies. These men know what the frick they're talking about. I'm not reading some tweet. I'm not shooting from the hip. These are giants in the industry, and they're like, this is a problem. This is a problem. You're a brand new generation of console, and this thing's got drastically slower memory in it. Atomic T, renewing their membership. Thank you so much. I don't want to be an old crotchety man, but dongle cloud gaming just sounds gross. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's going to help here. Because resolution's not the only factor. That's why I said, with respect, some of you just have bad info. You've got bad intel. You think, oh, just lower the resolution and it'll all be fine. And these are giants in the industry that are like, no, it's not that simple. No. This is he literally says the memory situation is a big issue on the Series S. These guys aren't haters. They make amazing games. These are the guys that give you Doom and Doom Eternal. These guys are no joke. They're big dogs in the industry. This isn't some little indie dev taking a cheap shot. Yo, Jay White hitting a 3-month milestone. Keep that member train going. Let's keep a member at the top of the chat. Let's keep that, man. I love seeing that. We want to maintain 1,000 members here as a minimum. 1,500 and my wife has to play Elden Ring again. If you're just tuning in, we're talking Starfield release date theory. The theory is that the Wright brothers patent number is in the trailer, which means 3/23/23 is the likely release date. I don't think the theory is that stable or sound the more we looked at it, but we have a poll at the top of the chat. Starfield release date. When do you think it's happening? Already 353 votes. Most people are liking that 3/23/23 release date. So proof of your prediction would be what? A third-party AAA only releasing on the Series X? Yes, that would be proof of my prediction. A third-party AAA game. A game that's attempting to be next-gen, skipping Series S. Yeah. That's my prediction that's going to start to happen. I actually think Starfield was going to do it. I agree with Eugene. I think Starfield was going to skip the Series S. I think it was. I think that's the main cause of the delay right now. The main cause of the delay. You got two guys from ID Software that are like, you can't just lower resolution. It's not that simple. This is a big issue. And you got Bethesda. Look at Starfield and tell me that what these gentlemen from ID Software just said, or id Software. To me, it was always ID Software. Look at what they just said and tell me that that's not the primary reason Starfield got delayed. Starfield's not delayed because Bethesda doesn't know what they're doing. Starfield's not delayed because they're having trouble. Starfield got delayed because Microsoft bought Bethesda and said, that thing better run on the Series S. And Bethesda's like, okay, we'll try. There was rumors that Starfield was going to be a PS5 timed exclusive. Your membership's gone? Hey, if your membership's gone, it's the perfect time to click join and jump back in. We don't want to have to rely on those gifted members. We really want people to get committed, get involved, hit the button. If you can, I know times are tough for some folks, but if you can afford the $5 a month, we're doing members content every day and every Friday night with my wife. Once a month, that Friday night's community game night. So join command or join button. We're trying to hit those milestones. Can't have that? Can't have that. That's right, Troll. Microsoft would never let that happen with their studios. They would always have them release on both consoles. Connor, you're right. You are absolutely correct. We're talking about third-party developers, which Bethesda was a third-party developer at the early inception, birth, and development of Starfield. We watched frame skips in the trailer, and that was probably played on PC. I want you to think about it like this. Starfield as a game. There it is. Troll jumping back in for the second month of membership. Thank you for doing that, my friend. We changed the color of month 2, so now I know when someone's jumping back in for their second month. We did that so I could call that out. So thank you for doing that. That's a big deal. We really appreciate the people that got gifted members jumping back in. That's awesome. Also, guys, it's totally free to click subscribe. It's totally free to click the like button. I am a Safe for Work broadcaster, so you can subscribe in confidence. I'll be in your sub feed all week putting on a show like this. It's basically video game radio. It's like a video game podcast. And because I'm Safe for Work, you can subscribe in confidence. So we've had plenty of members. Let's get some coffee orders next. But likes are free. Smash the thumbs up. It helps the video. It really does. There's a PS5 version of Starfield somewhere, says Eugene. Right? Bethesda was third party in the middle of Starfield's heavy development. That's exactly right. And so I don't think they had plans for this thing to run on the Series S. They were probably just going to take that on the chin and be like, listen, this game is just too, we're trying to do too much. Think of it this way. I was about to go on a little bit of a rant. Starfield and other games are attempting to make their games as good as possible. They want them to look amazing. They want to push the boundaries of what you've experienced and what these consoles can do. What in the world are you going to do when, according to the lead engine programmer at ID Software, according to him, according to Billy Kahn, the situation, the memory situation on the Series S is a big issue. Okay, but who are they specifically? Got any names? Are you muting the stream when information comes through that doesn't square with what you think already? I literally read quotes from two guys and gave their names and their positions at ID Software. id Software, the guys who made Doom, the lead engine programmer and the principal engine programmer. I quoted both of these gentlemen. I said these are gods in the industry. right? These are titans in the industry saying the memory issue on the Series S is a big deal. Maybe you tuned out. Maybe you had to turn the volume down when I read that. Think of this as evidence for your prediction. Greetings, Hellspawns. The Xbox Series version of Hellpoint was planned to ship tomorrow on July 12th. The version of the base game will be slightly delayed due to technical specificities of the platform. Currently, we expect to launch in 1 to 2 weeks. Keep your eyes peeled for announcements. What game is that? Oh, Hellpoint? I don't even know what game that is. Jiminy Christmas. Your ID article is before the S came out. Okay, what does that matter? The article where the guys from ID Software are commentating, they commentated in September of 2020. When did the Series S launch? That's a freaking lie, is it not? Xbox Series X release date was November of 2020. These guys made their comments 2 months prior to that. You do understand that the dev kits for those systems were in circulation prior to its public release, right? So their comments were based on experience with the dev kits and the power of the systems. Microsoft has decided that developers can make games just for the Series X, including first-party studios, according to a report last two years ago. 2 years ago, so I'll see, this is getting good. We're putting all the pieces together, right? We're putting all the pieces together. In July of 2020, it was reported by DeveloperTech.com that Microsoft decided if you want to make a game just for the Series X, you can, including first-party studios. Why, pray tell, do you think in July of 2020, couple months later, September of 2020, you got devs from ID Software saying these are issues? Why do you think that was happening? I'll tell you why it was happening. The dev kits were in circulation, and the feedback from developers was, can we skip the Series S? This is a problem. Your prediction sounds like a pipe dream, to be honest. It sounds like a pipe dream? So 2 years ago, Microsoft said if developers want to skip the Series S, they can, including first-party developers. First of all, go look up the definition of pipe dream. That you're misusing that term. My prediction's not a pipe dream. Pipe dream is when you're dreaming about some perfect ideal situation that's unlikely to come true. I'm not saying that at all. I'm giving a negative prediction. If that's the case, why is Starfield being delayed by the Series S limitations? Because they've announced that it will be on the Series S. Like, Microsoft says in July developers can do that if they want. I wouldn't be surprised in the acquisition, Zubair, if part of the acquisition was, we want that game on the Series S. Right? Like, I'm not saying that they forced them or that, because that article is saying, oh, you can skip it if you want, but when they chuck up that kind of capital and that kind of cash to buy Bethesda, it wouldn't shock me in the least if the contract stipulated that that game needs to launch on the Series S. The dev kit was late because of RDNA2. Forgot about that. I'm not sure what you mean. This theory does not sound pretty pipey. Oh, this theory does sound pretty pipey? How is my theory that developers are going to skip the Series S, how does it sound pipey if Microsoft said 2 years ago they can if they want? Why do you think Microsoft said that in July before the consoles came out? Why? Because the tech world was weighing in and the dev kits were in circulation. Aaron Greenberg. Future first-party titles are developed for the Series X first, not saying those games won't ship on Xbox One, only that we are leading with Series X, and each studio will decide what's best for their game community when they launch. This is Aaron Greenberg from Microsoft in July of 2020. Like, you guys are just not looking at the same things that I'm looking at. Pipe dream applies if we presume you're a Sony fanboy, I guess. It sounds like you're smoking some pipe. I want you to dismantle the theory that I've placed together with actual facts as opposed to smarmy, like, side swipes. We have Aaron Greenberg in July of 2020. We have an article from Developer Tech News in July of 2020 saying, listen, if people want to skip the Series S, they can. We always start development for the Series X. Okay, and then in September of 2020, before the systems are even in circulation, you have two giants in the industry saying the memory issue on the Series S is a big issue. This isn't a minor issue. This is a big issue. And now, here we come. 2 years later, Digital Foundry is hearing from developers that the Series S is a problem. What about what I'm saying sounds like I'm smoking pipe? Oh, you're just being punny. Okay. Like, if you think what I'm saying is out of whack, you've got to interact with everything I just trotted out. Look, listen to what I'm saying. Jolly good show. What's good, Lufi? They didn't say it was a problem. They said they think it could be. I'm telling you, I'm a dev. There's nothing wrong with the S. Oh, yeah, fallacy of the expert. They didn't say that it could be a problem, homie. The exact quote is, the memory situation is a big issue on the S. The much lower amount of memory and the split memory banks with drastically slower speeds will be a major issue. Aggressively lowering rendering resolutions will marginally help, but will not completely counteract the deficiencies. That's not could be a problem, maybe, I'm not really sure, I don't know what I'm talking about. This is the lead engine programmer at ID Software saying, this will be a problem, there's no simple fix for this, using words like drastically slower speeds. Like, this isn't some hyperbolic hater on Reddit. This is a guy in the industry being like, this is a problem. I think your premise is wrong. I don't believe Microsoft ever said the Series S can be skipped. I believe they said they could skip the Xbox One Series X. Oh, my premise is wrong based on you being in denial. In July of 2020, Microsoft has decided that developers can make games just for the Xbox Series X, including those from first-party studios. One of Microsoft's most debated policies for the upcoming generation is that games must also run on the PC and older Xbox One consoles. In recent weeks, that policy appeared to have softened so that third-party developers could decide what hardware to support. First-party studios, however, still appeared to have to develop for all the Xbox One consoles. Here's what Phil Spencer said. We want every Xbox player to play the new games from Xbox Game Studios. That's why Xbox Game Studios titles we release in the next couple of years, like Halo Infinite, will be available and play great on the Series X and the Xbox One. We won't force you to upgrade to a Series X to launch and play Xbox exclusives, okay? However, The Verge and other outlets have spotted the anomaly. A Microsoft spokesperson provided the following comment, which doesn't clear things up too much. Our future Xbox Game Studio titles are being developed natively for the Xbox Series X. We will continue to invest in tools for devs to scale across consoles. Which consoles each studio game can support will be based on what's best for their game and community at launch. Right? They're literally saying, and then Aaron Greenberg said future first-party titles are developed for the Series X first, not saying those games won't ship on Xbox One, only that we are leading with Series X, and each studio will decide what's best for their game and community when they launch. This is officially someone from Microsoft saying, we have them develop for Series X first, and it's up to them. It's up to the developers. What's best for them and where it lands. This is not hate. This is not opinion. This is industry analysis based on quotations from Microsoft representatives and high, very, very intelligent developer level guys at ID Software. That I'm basing what I'm saying in very, very sound logic and reasoning. None of this has to do with fanboyism. I have every single system, and I love my Series X. I do. I play on it all the time. It's a great system. I want Starfield to be amazing. I'm rooting for Starfield and for the Series X. I'm worried that the Series S is a self-made Trojan horse. You want that article? I don't like doing that. It's in the Discord. I don't like putting links in the chat that make people leave the stream unless it's for a sponsor. I remember articles talking about how the dev kit wasn't finalized and the developers were ticked. That article is from Developer Tech News. I'm sorry, developertech.com. Developer-tech.com or whatever. When Aaron Greenberg says it was before or after they showed the Series S for the first time. 4A Games Chief Technical Officer, the RAM is not an issue for us currently, but GPU performance presents challenges for future titles. Our current renderer is designed for high spatial and temporal resolution. It is stochastic by nature. Dropping any of those would require us to do more expensive calculations, dropping performance even further. We have a compromise solution right now, but I am not satisfied with it. These guys make the Metro games. Are you listening? So this is the chief technical officer that works on the Metro games, and he's saying the GPU performance presents challenges for future titles. So oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Do you have a Series S? I personally haven't seen issues with mine compared to the Series X. Yeah, what games are there for you to benchmark and test? People in the industry are developing games and saying, oh my gosh, listen to what this guy just said. The GPU performance presents challenges for future titles. Our current renderer is designed for high spatial and temporal resolution, read 4K at 60 FPS. It's stochastic by nature. Dropping any of those would require us to do more expensive calculations, dropping performance even further. We have a compromise solution right now, but I'm not satisfied with it. Are you hearing what these people are having to do for the Series S? Are you starting to see why my prediction is that AAA third-party developers will start skipping the Series S? It's a problem. As a Microsoft consumer, okay, just settle down for a minute. Stop seeing me as a hater and a Sony fanboy. Just calm yourself and think about something. If that starts to happen, you have every right to be extremely irritated. If you buy a Series S and you think Microsoft's my brand, here we go, and this starts happening, you have every right to be extremely frustrated. You're missing the huge part of the discussion. Yes, there are challenges, but devs will work hard to find ways to deal with these issues. No, they won't. No, they will not, Fuzzy. Your presumption is built on nothing. You think developers... Listen to what this guy said. He said, dropping any of those would require us to do more expensive calculations, dropping performance even further. So you think AAA companies working on next-gen titles are going to be willing to spend more money and lower the performance of their game? No, absolutely not. No, I don't think so. Developers will do risk and cost assessment on this, and I believe some of them, I'm not saying all, I believe some will conclude this isn't worth it. We have to do too much. We're straining at a gnat. This is too much work. It's too expensive. No, it'll harm the game too much. All you gotta do is look at Cyberpunk as an example. Like, that game shouldn't have been put on old systems. You're gonna have similar situations happening. Yes, they will. As the generation goes along, they'll get more comfortable with the hardware. Do you think devs don't get better at what they do? They don't learn, improve with time? Come on. Your presumption is, I believe, unfounded based on everything we've read. Your presumption is that every third-party developer is going to spend extra money and time. You're also presuming they're going to get better at working with a piece of hardware that's limited. A guy in the industry said that it has drastically slower speeds. So you think developers are just going to suddenly get better at working with bottleneck systems? Bottlenecks and slower performing systems, you don't just get better at working on those systems. They're inherently limited. There's not like, well, we suddenly got better at this. Even the guy from Metro said they have a compromise in place. He's not even happy with the compromise. I feel like the people you're having to push back from right now won't be changing their minds. They've already decided the Xbox is the best and only makes perfect decisions. I don't necessarily think that's true of the people debating with me. I'm not presuming everyone. I'm presuming that, as we saw with past gens, they get better as time goes on. They iterate. Yes, but you're presuming that based on a standard that exists sort of across the board, right? That's not true in this case. PS5 and Series X are virtually interchangeable. The Series S is not at that standard. As the other guy from ID said, as the principal engine programmer said, min spec matters. It's going to have an effect. I think it'll make people say, oh, we're not doing this. This isn't worth the time and the investment. It'll harm our game. Insomniac Black with a $5 tip. Don't the devs also get laid off after 18 months? So how are they supposed the day is supposed to get better? Now, that sentence fell apart. I'm gathering what you're saying, though. Thank you for the $5 tip. Insomniac Black saying, how are they going to get better if they're on an 18-month cycle? First-party developers at Microsoft, anybody that's contractual, not everybody, but anybody that's contractual is on an 18-month attrition cycle. I think people are thinking you're talking now, immediate future versus the next few years. Okay, yeah. Track with me here. If you're just tuning in, we talked Starfield release date theory. Starfield has patent numbers in some of their trailers that are the Wright brothers' patent number for March 23rd. And so people think, oh, March 23rd is a great number. So there's a poll at the top of the chat about the Starfield release date. We are now debating the true nature of the Starfield delay being related to the Series S, and industry input, analysis, and feedback has been that the Series S has significant issues with its memory, and people are pushing back. Only One Chance bumping their membership back on. Thank you so much. Had to renew. Good morning. You don't have to apologize for renewing. Thank you. Who else wants to jump in and be a member or gift members? We've already had some gifted members. Let's get some coffee orders and some members going. If you've never been here before, remember to hit subscribe. That way you don't miss the shows. Remember to hit like. I just understand people arguing against hardware limitation. It's like Axe said, they just don't understand the memory issue. I was watching the beginning of the stream to catch up, and I believe the release date's April, only because the new Stalker game comes out at the end of March, so that would be a tough launch. I don't know if Stalker's actually going to come then or not, but we'll see. You agree that towards the end of a gen, we may see what Lona was talking about? Sure. We may also see games very compromised along the way, but we will also see magic happen on the S as well. I don't think so. No. I don't think so. I don't think you'll ever truly experience next gen on the Series S. I don't think you will. Next gen was marketed as higher resolution, higher frame rate, higher load times, or faster load times. I believe all of those things are significantly challenging on the Series S based on what we've read from people in the industry. Yo, Only One Chance, not just renewing their own membership, but deciding to gift 5 to the community. Zach, Jamie, Tony, Amanda, and Crowded House all grabbed them real quick. I love seeing names I recognize get memberships. Don't forget, if you're a member, to get in the Discord. Don't forget, we do members content basically every day, as well as Friday nights. If you're a member, YouTube doesn't really put members only content in front of you. That's why you want to make sure you're in the Discord. Meech renewing their membership and hitting an 11-month milestone. Let's get a member train going, he says. Keep up the dope content. Thank you, sir. The way the Xbox Series S differs from the Xbox Series X, memory amount and GPU horsepower, is, for us, much easier to adapt to than to, example, the wide variety of PCs out in the wild. That's a Warhammer 40K dev. Okay, now, when is dinner? You understand that that's true for them. We had the Metro guy, the guy who makes the Metro games. He said, our issue's not memory. It's the GPU. Then you have other developers saying our issue is the memory. Thank you, Only One Chance, again for renewing for gifting those members. That's really kind, guys. Make sure and say thanks to him if you got a gifted membership. I just finished 3 websites this week. Got to give back, baby. That's very kind. The Xbox Series S is not worth buying long term. No. It would not surprise me at all if summer of next year, there are some games that get announced that don't land on the Series S. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Yep. Here's our awesome trailer. Here's our awesome game. This game's coming out holiday 2024 for the PS5, the Series X, and PC. And everyone's going to be like, hey, wait, what about the Series S? And they're like, next question. Like, I wouldn't surprise me at all if next year you start seeing games announced, marketed with release dates in 2024, and they just skip the Series S entirely. Series S is the Fortnite Minecraft box. I think Microsoft doesn't really care if their games are excluding it. That's not going to happen. I believe that it will. Because in July of 2020, Microsoft basically said, yeah, people can skip the Series S if they want. They wouldn't have said that if they weren't getting that feedback from the devs already. I think devs are more focused on sales, which means you sell to the most people possible. Not when you're trying to push next gen, Zubair. No. When you're trying to push next gen, look at Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Look at Returnal. No. Look at Spider-Man 2. Look at Wolverine. They're going to be selling to a significantly smaller market share. 120 PS4s in circulation, 120 million PS4s in circulation. And the Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine launches will be PS5 only. That is a massive reduction in market share. There's a real easy answer as to why they're doing it. They're doing things in those games that won't run on the PS4 or the PS4 Pro. Everything moves forward. Everything moves forward. And there's always that point where you move forward and you chop off the old gen and say, we could sell a ton, but it isn't worth it. Do you know how many frickin' Spider-Man 2s they would sell if they sold it on the old system? Oh my gosh. A $10 tip from Risick. What's the difference between the PS5 Digital and the Series S? Are they not the same? They are not the same, no. The PS5 Digital is identical to a PS5. It just doesn't have the disk drive in it. Performance-wise, it's identical. Maybe that's why they're going to let you stream games even if they're not on Game Pass. The Series S will be a streaming box. Possible. Yeah, people that think FSR is going to be the savior on consoles, not anytime soon. They'll just stream games to the Series S. Right. Exactly. Why would you limit your next-gen game just to be able to get it on older systems? So in your opinion, says Texas, does this mean Xbox Game Pass app will not stream some first-party games? Well, I don't have enough industry intel and feedback to commentate on what they're going to do with streaming. I know they like it, and I know initial response to xCloud beta was very positive. I know that. What's the too long didn't read on the delay? What's good, Robert? So there's a theory that the trailer that hit in June had patent numbers that is the Wright Brothers flight machine patent that was submitted on March 23rd. And there are people that think, oh, March 23rd is the release date. If that's true, then the delay was planned. I don't think the theory is very strong. I don't think they would have planned the delay. I actually really like what Striker1 said. He said they had originally planned to release March 23rd, and Microsoft wanted a November release and pressured them to do it, and they can't. The primary reason for the delay, we're arguing right now about the limitations of the Series S. I believe that Microsoft told Bethesda they wanted that game on the Series S, and I believe Bethesda was not planning to do that. I believe that Starfield was originally going to be a timed exclusive on PS5, and then it was going to hit the Series X and PC later. That's what I believe. Well, no, not PC. It would have been a console exclusive for 6 months or something, and then it would have landed on Series X. Yeah, we get that. The difference is that the Series X is not Series S is not a last-gen console. Please stop making false equivalents. I'm not making a false equivalency. No. See, you're trying to be sneaky with my argumentation. I never said that. I gave the example I was pushing back in context of a point made by Zubair that they're going to want to maximize sales. And I pushed back and gave a perfectly good example that Spider-Man 2 could be built to run on a PS4. Why? Because the engine and the assets are already there. Both Miles Morales was given the ability to run on the old system, so Spider-Man 2 could as well. If they're primarily motivated by sales alone, then Spider-Man 2 would not limit its market share. You gotta see in context. I didn't create a false equivalency. You're creating a straw man. I never once said that the Series S is the equivalent of an old gen system. I said when they want to push their game to the absolute max and they want to do things that aren't possible on a weaker system, they will limit their market potential sales. They will. So it stands to reason developers will look at the market share of the Series S and they'll look at the PS5 and the Series X and PC and they'll say, we don't need the Series S. It's too much work. We can't do all the things we want to do. I'm not saying that the Series S is equal to an old gen system. Fuzzy with a $10 tip through Super Chat. Lono, you know I love you, gotta run. Peace, Fuzzy. Good debate. Good debate. Charitable dude. Generous dude. Thank you. Wouldn't someone who bought the S be able to sue Microsoft for selling him an S and then dropping it? I don't think they're going to drop it, homie. My prediction... You think Ratchet and Clank couldn't run on a 4? No, it couldn't. There was SSD issues, and there was what was the thing that they used? Frick. It's the thing that manages the hard drive. Eugene will know what it is. There were things that they did with that they couldn't run on the old system. Yeah. There was intrinsic, inherent things to the nature of that game and the load times and the rifts and the going from one thing to the next, like these holes in reality that you couldn't do on the old system. They talked about it in an interview. It was the memory controller? Is that what it was? Yeah, there was something with the memory controller that they couldn't do on the old systems. I think that first-party games do not... or should not be a factor in this. Sony has an incentive to push PS5 sales. We should stick with third parties for the analysis. Well, yes and no, Zubair. Yes and no. Because Insomniac could have very easily done sales projections and been like, man, we'll make a killing here, Sony. Come on. And we can just have a different version on the PS5. You know, we can put all... like they did with Horizon Forbidden West. I don't think Microsoft would have pressured them to get the game out sooner. Doesn't really make much sense. Like when they pressured 343 to push the game out in November, even though it wasn't ready. Like that, according to industry insider Jason Schreier in his report. You don't think Microsoft would do that? They already got crapped on for the Halo delay. Yeah, and the Halo release date was something that Microsoft pushed for. The reason that Halo got quote-unquote delayed has nothing to do with 343. That release date in November was something that Microsoft pressured them to do. And the game wasn't ready. They could have very easily done the exact same thing to Bethesda. Didn't they also say that Spider-Man could only run on the PS5 SSD? Yet it's now coming to PC hard drives as well. I never read that. And Spider-Man... Why would they say that? Because Spider-Man initially releases a PS4 game. Where did you read that? I don't believe anybody said that because Spider-Man is a PS4 title. You were talking about moving on from PlayStation 4 and leaving behind the install base. That's a false equivalency when you're talking about the Series S. Nope. You once again are not listening very well. I'm going to repeat myself, which is irritating. Listen very carefully. The context of my point was pushing back on Zubair's point that a company would not limit its sales market. And I gave an example of when they would. We want to push this game further. We're going to limit our sales market. The PS5 sales market is significantly smaller than the PS4 sales market. There's 120 million PlayStation 4s in circulation. The PlayStation 5 will not be in circulation of that size and that market saturation when Spider-Man 2 releases. So I was simply saying there are instances where companies will push their game so far that they will leave behind a larger market share. That is not me saying that the Series S is equivalent to an old-gen console. So now you're flat out ignoring what I'm saying and just saying the same thing again. I'm not saying the Series S is equivalent to an old console. What I'm saying is it's limited, and if a company looks and says, we would really like to push our system and our game further, and we therefore will leave behind the Series S, limiting our potential sales, they will do that if the game is so next gen or too big or whatever. We're talking third-party companies that are making games that want to be truly next gen. They're going to look at the market share of a PS5, the Xbox Series X, and the PC. And the Series S is only a percentage of the market at that point. A third-party game that's launching on all those platforms, Series S is a percentage of the market at that point, and they might say, oh, we can shrink our potential market size. That's fine. Lono's point is that devs will sometimes not develop for the largest possible audience. They are not driven only by market size. That was my point. That's exactly right. I am not saying the Series S is equivalent to an old-gen console. I'm not saying that. I understand what a false equivalency is, and I'm not creating a false equivalency. I'm also not creating a false binary or a false dichotomy. I'm not saying games are either going to be next-gen and not be on the Series S, or they're going to have to sacrifice and be on the Series S. I'm not saying that either. Got to go for a bet. Hate leaving these debates. All right, Jake. Lono, would you sell coffee to only the northern states because they are better? Well, that's not analogous to what we're saying. No. If we crunch the numbers, I'll make your analogy work. Controver School. If we crunch the numbers and it simply was not worth, we've actually done this. This is a great example. We've crunched the numbers and it simply isn't worth shipping certain quantities to certain countries. It's so expensive to ship, we don't offer it. Do you see? We limit our potential market and our potential sales quantities because we crunch the numbers and it doesn't make good business sense. We'll sell coffee to certain regions and not to others. Yeah, we literally do that because it doesn't make any sense, right? So we shrink our potential market share and we shrink our potential quantity of sales throughout the year because it's stupid to do that. So a company might come to the exact same conclusion. We are willing to sacrifice the percentage that the Series S represents in the market share. We're willing to sacrifice those potential sales. Why? Because we want to take this game to the highest of the heights. And if we do that, then we can't launch. Can't launch on the Series S. We simply must leave it. We have to do too much work. As the guy said from the oh golly, it was the quote from Hilly. As the guy said who works on the Metro games, it's costly for them to do this. It's not something they can just do for free. Wheezy says they'll not drop the Series S. They'll stream the games to the Series S and maybe 1080. Oh, at 540, 720. That'll be how they keep it around. Yeah. Yeah, I think Wheezy's prediction. Listen, you guys have got to slow down. I'm not saying Microsoft's dropping the Series S. I'm not saying they'll stop making, selling it, or supporting it. I'm saying there will be third-party developers that are not owned by Microsoft that decide we're not going to go through the struggle of trying to optimize our game for the Series S. There will be people that say that. There'll be developers that say that they will skip the Series S. And Microsoft will potentially take some of their first-party titles that really push the envelope and they'll stream them to the Series S instead. That was a lie. Other developers have done it before. It was doable on the PlayStation 3 according to other developers. Yeah, that was clickbait garbage. I read those articles. If you're talking about Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart and the Rift system being doable on the PlayStation 3, that was clickbait, dishonest garbage. That was garbage reporting. It wasn't true. A guy made a particular reference to a particular thing that they could do back then that had nothing to do with the data controller and the seamlessness and the load times of what Ratchet & Clank did. That was garbage and misleading. That was a perfect example of zero journalistic integrity and just clickbaiting for AdSense. It was not an accurate report on what was done by the Ratchet & Clank developers that couldn't have been done on the PS4. The Metro guy was saying that the GPU and dropping resolution was the bigger problem over the memory. For them, Hilly. For them. There was a company, there was a 4K Warhammer developer that's like, we're not having any problem with this. This guy, the guy that you quoted, Hilly, he's like, it's not the memory, it's the GPU. Then there's other people that are like, no, the memory is a problem for us. Don't you remember when Arc came out and said that they were having trouble optimizing their game for the Xbox One because its CPU was slightly slower, so they had to go in and change certain things? Like, the Xbox One had a slightly slower CPU than the PlayStation 4, but its GPU was slightly stronger. I may have inverted those, but you get what I'm saying. The developers of Arc came out and said, we're having to do different things with our game when we develop it and get it ready for the Xbox because it has a stronger this, but a weaker this. And we have to change where things go and how they go. Metro Exodus on a Series S can go as low as 512p sub HD. The game runs lower than a Switch game at times. Are you hearing that? Metro Exodus runs at 512 resolution sometimes on the Series S. On the Series S. Golly. Arc runs like Bud even on top PC hardware. Right, that game had its own optimizations and performance issues for sure. I don't know what engine it runs on, but it always seemed a little wonky. I think it's only a handful of games pushing the envelope that will feel this. Games like Hades won't care. There are a lot more Hades in the world than AAA. Right, and that's why if you go back to my initial statement, and if the Xbox guys untwist their underwear, I said AAA next-gen titles that are launching on PC, PS5, and Series X, there will be some that skip the Series S. That's all I said. That was the prediction that I made. I didn't say it was a piece of crap. I didn't say that they were going to stop supporting it. I didn't say it was going to get left behind. I formulated my sentence very carefully. Like, untwist your underwear. I said, not you, Zubair. Like, next-gen AAA third-party companies that are going to have their game hitting all those markets are going to look at the Series S and be like, we're not messing with that. They're like, we're not messing with that. No way. Absolutely not. It's too much trouble. Third-party developers have an incentive to develop for a wide an audience as possible to the detriment of their vision even. No. Otherwise, the game will be like Cyberpunk 2077. Wouldn't have been last gen. Your sentence, you contradict yourself with your comment. Let me read this again very slowly. Third-party developers have an incentive to develop for as wide an audience as possible to the detriment of their vision even. Otherwise, the game will be like Cyberpunk 2077. What? It wouldn't have been last gen? You understand that Cyberpunk 2077 is the proof of what I'm saying. You're comparing a game that's from a first-party developer who's trying to push units of their console to third parties. No, I am not. No, I am not. No. If we know Microsoft well enough, they will create an updated version of the Series S and X. Yeah, and what do the people with the Series S do when they do that? More Law is dead as a podcast with God of War dev, and depending on their position, working on the game memory or GPU will be what they complain about. Should I just go ahead and upgrade to the X? I think so. I think so many factors have caused the issues, and they could have had the issues by just putting it on Series S or X. See what you unleashed, Lono? Everybody talking about my skivvies. Yeah, everybody wants to know now. I just realized Rockstar never made a GTA game solely for last gen. They probably won't make it time for this one either. Yeah, probably not. It's going to take a lifetime for the next GTA to come out anyway. Definitely going to be mid-generation updates again. Yeah, I think so. I think there will be, and I think that's going to pose another problem. What are those people going to do? The Series S is basically for the indie games that are on Game Pass. Series X is for all the new things. Buy the new Xbox. People didn't seem to mind buying a new Xbox every year last gen. Well, not a lot of people did that. I will bet my whole wallet that GTA 6 will be on Series S. You're going to lose your wallet. You're going to lose your wallet. I'll take that action. No way. GTA 6 is probably 5 years away. In 2027, no shot. No shot that game launches on the Series S. They'll cloud stream it, probably, like what Wheezy said. They'll have to cloud stream it. That's what I said earlier. Just wait until the Pros and the S get even further behind. 5 years, that's being generous. That's what I mean. That's like 5 or 6 years away. You think 2028 that GTA 6 is landing on the S? My phone can run those indies, though? Yeah. For sure. It will be. But it'll either be streamed, or if it's native, it's going to run like a PS3 game. Never going to happen. The Series S is going to sell enough units to where it will basically be essential. Where do you think the lion's share of the GTA player base is, though? Is it on Xbox? If the lion's share of the GTA player base is on Xbox, they'll do everything they can to get GTA 6 to run on the Series S. But I don't know. If the lion's share is on PC and PlayStation, then maybe not. Excalium with a $5 tip through Super Chat. I hope they skip consoles if they can't make a solid port. It would ensure better buyer confidence for all, since you wouldn't worry about bad ports. PlayStation and PC? That explains why they are pushing cloud so much. Yeah, if GTA 6 is on the Series S, it'll be through the xCloud. It'll be through the xCloud. It's just, I'm telling you, a game of that caliber and size, by the time it comes out, I can't see it. I cannot see it. The Xbox One S all digital tried to be the Game Pass box. If you have fiber, the cloud's great. But at that time, there'll be a Slim Pro upgraded consoles. Yeah. If you're tuning in for the Starfield release date theory discussion, we have a poll at the top of the chat. Starfield release date, when is it happening? Most people are saying 3/23/23. So the theory is that in the trailers, there is a number on the side of some guns and some ships. It's the patent number that the Wright brothers submitted on March 23. And 3/23/23 has a nice ring to it. So there's a theory forming that that's when they're going to release it. I push back on the theory, saying that those numbers, and the trailer that we saw in June, there's no way that they did that after the delay. It would have taken too much time. If they did that, then the delay would have been planned. So make sure and smash the like button. We've had a nice strong day, but YouTube did something weird a little bit ago. I don't know if it was a blip or what. If you've had to refresh or it's been awkward with audio or something, I just want you to know that's not me. YouTube's been doing some updates, and sometimes it causes little hitches and blips. We lost a bunch of people at one point. I don't know what happened. It seems like something periodically happens once a day that causes that, and I don't know what it is. I think they're running some front-end testing. Metro Exodus doesn't run at 540 on the Series S. It dropped to 540 for an instant because of a bug. 99% of the time, the game runs at 1080p. I mean, I was just reading a quote from an article. I don't know. They're not going to buy all third-party studios. Microsoft's going to buy all third parties and force them to make games for the S anyway. Right. I don't know if I'm recalling this correctly, but I think Titanfall 2 did something similar. Did what? Starfield will definitely be out by Christmas of 2023, no matter what. Well, a lot of people are looking at when they said, the Starfield release date was going to be like first half of 2023. A lot of people think that March is just too early, that they're going to squeeze as much as they can out of that first half. Now, the reason, some of you might be like, why are we talking about the Series S? The reason we got on that subject is, it's my theory that the primary reason for the delay is that the Series S is causing problems. They're having to optimize the game for the Series S, and in so doing, they're losing. They're basically having to spend all their precious final months of development time. They're spending it making sure the game runs on the Series S. Now, the reason we're saying this is the theory goes that Microsoft entered the picture and was like, hey, you need to make that thing run on the Series S. We just purchased you, and we would really like the Series S saturation has just been insane. So we need that, right? And so that's what we think is happening. Now, there's articles in as early as July of 2020 where Microsoft seemed to indicate that people could skip the Series S if they wanted, and then there's an article in September of 2020 that quotes two guys from ID Software that talk about the memory limitations of the Series S are a pretty big problem. My theory is that Lono hates the Series S because it used to bully him in high school. Yeah, that's what it was. That's the cause of all of my derision and distaste for the Series S. Yes, it did. It bullied me. All of that is time wasted, in my opinion. If they do March, it'll be because the first 6 months are usually light on games. We don't know the cost-benefit analysis, so it could very well just be minuscule, that it doesn't matter, and they'll develop for it anyway. We don't know enough for this to be drawing conclusions. I'm not drawing conclusions. I'm making predictions. When a developer, when a high up guy at a company says that's drastically slower, that memory is a problem, I'm like, I think next gen AAAs are gonna skip right over that and say we don't want to fiddle around with that. You know, I'm basing my prediction off of, industry expertise. Like, these guys aren't ninnies. They know what they're talking about. I was gonna buy a Series S, but you're convincing me not to. I know people buy it because there's economic reasons, there's just life reasons. Like, you're just at a point where you're like, man, I want a new system. I'd love to have some of the new stuff, but I can't afford it, or I can't get my hands on a Series X. I 100% get that. I do. But if you can, I would hold out for a Series X. I love my Series X. I think it's a great system. Sounds to me like the Metro Exodus team have bad optimization, to be honest. Not many games have issues that severe. So, again, see, the presumption is, your presumption's based on fandom. You're a fan of your fandom for Microsoft is making you say, oh, it's got to be the Metro guys. It's their fault. Okay, so the chief, the principal engine programmer at ID Software and the lead engine programmer at ID Software also said that the memory is going to be a problem. The guys at Metro are like, it's not really the memory, it's the GPU. And the guy from ID is like, you can't just lower resolution. And the guys at Metro are like, yeah, lowering resolution's kind of an issue. It's hurting other systems. Like, again, your fandom is making you presume, oh, there's nothing wrong with the box. There's nothing wrong with the box. It's the devs. It's the devs' fault. It's like that. I don't know. With respect, that just sounds like denial. That just sounds like denial. You're just denying the fact that, like, maybe, just maybe, a system that's technologically weaker is causing issues for developers. I just don't think the cost-benefit analysis is so heavily in the red that they won't develop for the Series S. Okay, I'm going to bring up another debate that we had for a pretty long time leading up to God of War Ragnarok and Horizon Forbidden West. There were people that were saying doing old-gen support is holding the game back, right? And one of their arguments was there's all these new things that they can do with the games, with ray tracing and textures and lighting and everything else with resolution, right? And people started pointing to the fact that, well, Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine are leaving behind old gen because they want to do all this new stuff, right? If we accept that as a premise, that companies are, and I actually think it's a sound premise. I think if you look at the way technology advances, if you look at the way that graphics cards and technology with graphics cards pushes things forward on games, okay? If you look at that reality as a pretty constant, ever-moving trajectory, If you accept that premise, then I believe it's very, very reasonable to say there will be AAA developers that are developing next-gen games that want to do really, really crazy, awesome stuff, and they're going to take one look at the Series S and say, that just isn't worth it. We're going to have to sacrifice too many of the things that we're in love with. Right? Now, some of this they do to a fault. Developers can sometimes be infatuated with innovation. I call it innovation infatuation. Oh, if it's new, that means it's automatically better. If it's shiny, that means it's automatically better, right? I think that's a pretty steady, present reality in the development world and in the gaming world, right? Are you comparing the S to the PlayStation 4? No, I am not. I am merely giving an example of game companies that say we want to do newer, awesome, cooler stuff, and we have to leave behind something that's limited. And as dev cycles get longer and longer and longer, the Series S is going to start to feel weaker and weaker and weaker. One of the things that I've dealt with in these discussions is I've said I think Horizon Forbidden West is really close to the ceiling of graphical fidelity that we're going to see this generation, right? And people say, oh, no, they're going to get better and better and better at development. They're going to push these systems to their absolute limits, right? Somebody not moments ago was saying, well, near the end of the dev cycles and near the end of the cycles of these consoles, the developers start to squeeze every square inch they can out of these systems. You're exactly right. And when they do that, do you think they're going to want to do that and also spend time optimizing for a weaker, inferior system? Just fast forward 4 or 5 years from now. Imagine somebody right now developing a game and the dev cycle incubation period's 4 or 5 years. So you're talking about a game that's going to launch in 2026 or 2027. You think it's just beyond the scope of possibility that they're like, yeah, we push things so far, we're going to have to sacrifice too much to deal with the Series S. Let's just skip the Series S. You just think that's absolutely just unbelievable that they wouldn't do it. I think your fandom is showing if you think that's just completely out of the scope of possibility. Like, you just refuse to believe that a single developer will come to that conclusion. That's based on fandom. That's not based on anything other than that. You're bringing up an example that's irrelevant to try to prove your point. It's not irrelevant. No, it's not. No. You continue to bake into my example something that's not there because that's sleight of hand, because your argumentation up to this point's not been very impressive. You've been doing straw man. You've been doing sleight of hand. You're not a very... I'm sorry. You're not good at debating. You're not. You continue to try to bake things into my argument that aren't there because you're not good at argumentation. So you rely on straw man fallacy. Like, well, you're trying to say that the Series S is like an old gen system. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying there are realities in development where developers conclude it's not worth going on the weaker systems because of all these new things we want to do. Last gen support is either irrelevant nor a straw man. Pick one. Last gen support's either irrelevant or not a straw man. Pick one. Now you're doing false dichotomy. Do you just deal in fallacious argumentation? Like, are you practicing fallacies out to see if people can sniff them out? I just want to know who the S is made for. It's an economic console for people that want Game Pass and free games, and and they just love the Microsoft ecosystem. It's like really. It's a great entry point into the Microsoft ecosystem. The Microsoft ecosystem is extremely economical, affordable. It's great value. So the Series S is a great way to get into that ecosystem. Microsoft's got a very good business strategy. I just think that AAA companies, third party especially, are going to say, man, we're trying to do all this new awesome hotness. We can't do it on that system. You know? It's more unlikely than likely. Stop putting words in people's mouths to try to prove your point. Hey, pot, meet, kettle. I've not put words in your mouth. You've been doing that to me all morning. So, again, you're the pot calling the kettle black. I've not said that. I've not said that. I'm saying that it's likely to happen. That's me saying that prediction. I'm not putting words in anybody's mouths. That's my prediction. That it's very, very likely that AAA companies that really, really want to push next-gen development, that's what they do. Last-gen support's completely irrelevant? No, it's not. It represents a trajectory in the industry. It represents a trajectory in the industry. I'm not saying that it is an equivalency to the Series S. You're having a really hard time grappling with my point because you're seeing something that's not there. You're seeing something that's not there. There's a trajectory in the industry where developers start to say, we are not going to land on that because it's too weak. They do the same thing in games that land on PC, by the way. Have you ever seen PC games release, and before they release, they push out minimum required specifications? You understand that in the PC realm and in PC development, those minimum required specifications are on a trajectory of it goes like this, right? It's moving like this. It is my contention that the same trajectory that leaves behind old-gen consoles, the same trajectory that leaves behind weaker tech in PCs, that same trajectory will, for some developers, that trajectory will make the S get left behind. It's a I think it's a very sensible argument. Very reasonable, based on things that we can see in the industry. It's very easy to observe this pattern and this trajectory. If I had a young child, I'd have an S because it's cheap, and if they break it, oh well. Microsoft is risk averse. The blowback from not releasing first party on Series X will be catastrophic. I never said anything about first party. AAA third party, next gen titles. I believe there will be some that skip the Series S. I believe that. The Quarry, side-by-side comparison. Golly, looks like a different game. Jiminy Christmas. Cutbacks on Series S. The medium drops to just 648p on the Series S. Halo Infinite drops to 540 in 120 FPS mode on the Series S. The only thing that will save the Series S is more games will target mobile specs going forward. Yeah, the Quarry has issues. Come on. Games that just came out are having performance issues on the console. Like, you're just not looking at reality. If the Series S is not a last-gen console, then how is bringing up last-gen support falling off in any way relevant? Please explain. I just explained it. You just seem to be too stupid to grapple with the argument. Sorry. I gotta pull out a mean word. I just think you're too stupid to grapple with my argumentation. A measurable trajectory in the industry of min specs getting left behind across all platforms, whether it's consoles or PC, it's measurable. My argumentation is that the Series S will dip below that line for some developers. If you're too stupid to understand that, stop typing, go read a book, and quit wasting our time. Fable's getting chopped because of the Series S, and my guess is we haven't heard anything new for Perfect Dark because they don't want it on the Series S. They'll continue launching games for old gen for years to come instead of completely moving on. I just see an increase in devs launching certain games only on current gen more frequently. Yeah, that's been my idea, is not that these old systems get left behind. I don't think the Series S gets left behind. I just think there's going to be a handful of developers that make announcements that sound like this. During the course of development, there were lots of great new next-gen features that we really wanted to capitalize on, and we came to the incredibly difficult decision to not optimize this game for Series S. Of course, because it has less specs and it's cheaper, so regardless, it's always going to underperform. Last support always falls off. When has a current gen underpowered SKU ever fallen off? You're not understanding that the Series S is a new reality. You understand this is a new reality, right? I think that's another thing that you're missing in the equation. When the PlayStation 4 launched and the Xbox One launched, that was it. That was it. Those are the systems. There was no PS4 Lite. There was no Xbox One little brother. Those were the systems. Now, yes, during those systems' life cycles, there were ones that came out that were slightly stronger. PS4 Pro, Xbox One X, right? This is a brand new anomaly. There was no, hey guys, here's the brand new consoles. Oh, and we have a cheaper version with half the RAM. This is a new thing. This has never been a thing before. Not really. PS4 was weaker than the PS4 Pro. Oh my gosh, Cujo. The PS4 Pro launched later in the life cycle of the PlayStation 4. The PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 4 Pro did not launch simultaneously. You guys track with what I'm saying. This is anomalous. This has not been done before. Good night, nurse. When the PS4 launched and the Xbox One launched, that was it. That's all you could get. There was no PS4 Lite. There was no Xbox One Lite. Later in the life cycle of those consoles, they said, we've got stronger versions. They can do things that are a little bit nicer and they're a little bit faster. And people bought them. The Xbox One, the Xbox Series X, and the Series S launching simultaneously is anomalous in the industry up to this point. This has never been done before. Wasn't there like a 2-year gap? Yes, it was. Yes, they didn't launch even close to each other. I'll look it up. PS4 release date was 2013. PS4 Pro release date was 2016? Was it 3 years later? It was 3 years later! Chat, are y'all good? Are you good? But support didn't drop for PS4 until support dropped. Oh my... Cujo. That's not the point at all. That's not the point. Homie, that's not the point. 3 years later, the Pro came out. And yes, you are right. They didn't suddenly drop support of the PS4. I'm not even saying that's going to happen to the Series S. Oh my gosh. I am saying that when the consoles launched, they were it. That's all they had. There was no PS4 Lite. There was no Xbox One Lite. The Xbox Series X launching with a little brother next to it, it's anomalous in the industry. It's not been done before. And that is a potential problem. Why? Because of the trajectory that I just outlined. The industry is on a trajectory where min specs get left behind. It happens in the PC world. Every game that comes out, every 24 months, you'll notice that min spec threshold going up. You need a little bit more memory. You need a little bit more install room. You need a slightly faster CPU, okay? That trajectory is like this. And when things fall below that line, they don't get developed or optimized for, okay? So your weak PC eventually gets left behind. There was a time where I needed a quad-core processor if I wanted to play Modern Warfare, the first one, Call of Duty 4, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, or Gears of War. I didn't have the minimum hardware specs to play the PC game. Why? Because of the trajectory. That trajectory, I'm predicting, for some AAA next-gen developers will make them say, Series S, min specs are too low, we have to compromise too many things, our game's not going to land there. 7 months from Slewfoot. I love it here. Thank you so much for hitting a 7-month milestone. Most PCs are on par with the Series S. The average gamer can't afford top of the line. Okay, great point to support my point, okay? You're right. Most PCs are on par with the Series S. If you look at hardware reports from Steam, most PCs out there are mid-lane. They're average. There will be next-gen games that launch on PC that won't run on those systems. The min specs will be too high. It's a thing. It's a thing. It happens all the time. Devs do have that decision-making power. If the Series S can't support their vision, they won't launch for it. It's not impossible. I think my prediction is just, it's so fair. It's so reasonable. I've not made some big, grand, broad sweeping prediction like the Series S is a piece of crap. It's going to get left behind. There won't be any games on it in 3 years. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm saying I think there's going to be a handful of AAA companies that are going to make that awkward announcement that, like, yeah, our next-gen game, Series X, PS5, and PC, I'm telling you, that's going to be a thing. It will. There's zero doubt in my mind that that is going to be a thing. What in the stupid's going on this morning? Give me some, not you. You already gifted some, only one chance. Let's get some members for what I've had to do this morning. Come on, let's get some members. I'm 100% okay with that, but that's why I think Xbox is pushing streaming so hard, because unfortunately most people can't afford a Series X. Okay, Grizzly, hang with me here. A third-party company that has no vested interest in the Xbox ecosystem, they're not going to submit their game to that, because streaming is a hindered performance. Like, it's not the same. Like, if you want your game to look and perform as good as possible, you want to win awards, you want to get praises, you want to get good reviews, you don't have any interest in the Xbox ecosystem, you're not going to submit your game to xCloud streaming unless Microsoft writes a ridiculously fat check. Microsoft's going to run out of money at that rate. You're just paying people to be on Game Pass and paying people to, can you please put your game on the xCloud for our Series S? We don't want to do that. It hinders performance. Well, here's $1 million. That doesn't sound like a good business plan. Mr. Glum with a $5 tip through Super Chat. Lono, I just upgraded to the X, so I can't do gifted subs for a month or so. I'll do 5 more real quick. Yo, don't do that, Mr. Glum. Thank you for the $5 tip. Amanda, hitting 2 months. Thank you so much for hitting a 2-month milestone. Hold up. Wasn't the PlayStation 2 and the PlayStation Slim launched at the same time, at least in North America? From what I've seen, it's the same year at least. It's not been like that for a long time. If you're correct that happened, then I still think anomalous is a fitting word. Mr. Glum just gifted 5 memberships. Snake Eyes, Ghostface, Vintage Rose, KH3 Kingdom Hearts probably for life, and Shane grabbed him. Guys, make sure and thank Mr. Glum. Good morning, CrossFit Nerd with a $10 tip. Let's keep the member train going. Let's go. Come on, let's get a couple more. There's a lot of new folks here. Streaming games come a long way. It doesn't matter. It will only apply to a few games at most. Who care? You want the power, put your money where your mouth is. Oh yeah, if you don't want to miss out. PS2 Slim did not launch together. Okay. I mean, that wouldn't have really wrecked anything that I said. Even if the PS2 and the PS2 Slim launched together, that would still be, you'd have it happening then, and then, when was that? Jiminy freaking Christmas. 2007? Yeah, anomalous would still be a fitting word. But you're incorrect, so it doesn't matter. But even if it was correct, some people here don't understand your prediction based on fact versus something behind presently implemented. Like, it's a prediction. Yeah, I'm just making a prediction. Read my last message about last gen. People are misunderstanding. Xbox One was the baseline, and the One X was the upgrade. Series X is the new baseline. Series S is a downgrade from the baseline. Thank you. So concise, a great way of making the point. The Xbox One was the baseline. Xbox One X was an upgrade. Series X is the baseline. Why? Because the Series X and the PS5 are virtually interchangeable systems. That's the baseline. The Series S is a downgrade from the baseline. This adds context to why Axel from ID Software said min spec matters. It matters. If companies are coming to the PS5 market Xbox Series X market, and they're looking at the market share and PC, and they're saying, here's the baseline. What about the Series S? Oh, that's a lower... Oh, I don't know. Can we do that? Look at the companies that are speaking candidly about it and the challenges they're facing. Now you're going to understand maybe why my prediction is being made. They're like, no. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. A reason for buying an X over the S is for the same reason you were saying, but now the S is so popular, devs have to use it. Maybe. You got to remember, some of you guys need to remember, when you're launching third-party multi-platform, Series S is only a percentage of the market, right? It's only a percentage of the market. Listen to what I'm saying. AAA third-party multi-platform. That's a big market. And slicing off a piece of that pie, Series S, for some companies, they're like, that's fine. A large portion of our audience is in the Asian market, and they own PlayStations. Series S is predominantly Western market, and we're just not doing it. Come on, if you've got a Japanese developer with a primarily rooted Asian audience and a large, think about that too. It's not just about market share; it's about target audience. Here's your market share. And their market share leans like this, and they're like, yeah, most of our sales, 60%, are going to be on the PlayStation 5. That makes the decision significantly easier to be like, no, we're leaving the S out of the equation. Supposedly the Xbox is outselling the PS5 in Japan right now. That may be because of the PlayStation 5 production first half of this year was really bad comparatively. Xbox was making and distributing more consoles for the first time in, a decade. But I don't know if that's because of production as much as it is because of demand. Series S has been selling great in the East. Yeah. Series S is doing very well, and that's part of what we're saying is its saturation rates are phenomenal. Like, credit where credit is due, Microsoft made a system that's doing great with respect to sales. A few weeks randomly it outsold. The difference is staggering. It is selling the it's outselling the PS5 in Japan right now. The exact reason for what we don't know. Could be just dumb luck out of circumstances. Could be, clickbait headlines. I don't know if this is a... Thank you, whoever gifted the membership. You made my day. Amanda, I believe it was Mr. Glum. If a game can run at 4K 60 on the X, which is what we expect, it'll run on the S at some acceptable frame rate or res. The bar is set really high. And a couple companies have already weighed in and said that lowering resolution doesn't solve all the problems. It's not that simple. We should probably try to factor in the attach rates for the consoles. I bet the Series S owners buy fewer games than Series X owners. Their spending shows their priorities. Potentially, yes. PS5s are literally unbuyable in Japan. They can't produce enough to keep up with demand. Like I said, I think that's a production anomaly, not a representation of total sales or demand. That's why it's news, because it's doing well in Japan. Yeah, but that again over the totality of the life cycle of these consoles and sales, I don't think the Series S will continue to outpace PS5. PS5 production will catch up, and then the PS5 is I don't think people quite understand what's going to happen. I don't think they do, because the PS4 market saturation is absurd, and the PS5's are in the demand is just absolutely insane. The figures don't mean that Sony is losing its foothold in the region, as lifetime sales show a reasonably healthy uptake of the PS5 in Japan. Since launch, Famitsu reports that the PS5 has sold a massive 1.69 million consoles, while the Xbox Series has sold just 232,000 units, a marked difference. And don't even bother comparing these to the Nintendo Switch, which has shifted a colossal 24 million units across all versions. So yeah, total sales in the market, you're talking 1.69 million versus 232,000. There's been 2 random weeks that the Xbox outsold. Right, people are running away with headlines here. You're not seeing the forest for the trees, right? If you and I work at a company and we're both sales reps, and I'm making phone calls to Japan, and I just closed a sale. I just hit 1.6 million in total sales, right? But for the past 2 weeks, you've outsold me in Japan. And we look at total sales for both of us, and you've got $232,000, and I have 1.6 million. Who do you think's getting the bonus and the lunch with the boss? Me. Come on. Come on. You're like, that's like the guy who's like lifetime career in the game. He's lost 100 games and he just recently beat me 3 times in a row, but I've won 3 times more than him. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I got you, man. It's like, okay. Yeah, you did. You really got me. Series S is taking over the Eastern market. Insert hold up meme here. Yeah. I see Series S in stores. I never see PS5s. Yeah, every time I'm in Target, there's Series S's just sitting there. Yeah. I'm just saying it's doing good. Well, yeah. I know what you're saying. Like it's they're having a better result in the Asian market than they have traditionally. They are. But again, that's not representation of a market disruption or like a market disturbance. It's not. It is not. Okay. Schedule new. Sorry, 1 second. Brief little break here to get something ready. Okay. Xbox One, which sold approximately 114,000 consoles in total in that market, they've doubled the install base, to be fair. No, yeah, they are. They're doing better than they did previously. Now, again, there's a lot of factors there. People could be just tired of not being able to get a console, so they're like, well, this thing is the cheapest thing going, and they're buying it. Like, they just want something new to play video games on. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not like a shift in the market when 1.6 million units have sold versus 231,000. Like, that shows you that the PlayStation market hold is still well intact. I think Steam Deck's going to make some big noise. What are you doing? Whatever comes to you. You laughed like that before I laughed like that. Sony and Nintendo are the home teams. You do not ignore the home team in Japan. It's tantamount to the highest order of disrespect. Right. Fozzie renewing his membership and hitting an 11-month milestone. Microsoft created the Siki to create supply line issues for Sony to take over the Eastern market. Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is. You have 140 million PlayStation 4 people that will eventually shift to PS5. That's what I mean. Like, anybody who thinks... I'm not saying anybody in chat thinks this, but there are people that think this. Anybody that thinks that, like, Microsoft is edging out Sony because of, like, a couple of weeks of sales or whatever, like, I just don't think you quite understand what's coming. Over the span of the next 2 years, the PlayStation 5 market saturation is going to be absolutely just bonkers. As soon as production catches up over the next 2 to 3 years, the saturation of that console... That's why they can confidently say, like, Spider-Man 2's PS5 only. Wolverine, is PS5 only. Production will catch up. And market projections have just got to be so steady and sound. I think that this is just undeniable. I've never heard anybody say that Microsoft didn't create the Siki. There might be something to this. It ain't happening. PS5 will be enormous, but that doesn't mean Xbox isn't successful or making money. Xbox is doing fine. Sony's just more popular. Microsoft's gaming division is still not profitable. Like, you have to know that too. Like, they're growing their customer base, and they're doing well, but they've got a long way to go. They do. They got a long way to go. They've certainly not landed the profitable plane yet. They haven't. Let's remember, Xbox does not need any bigger of a base. Any further growth into places like Japan, which is very much what they've always wanted, is like a cherry on top. Yeah, I think that's an important thing to note too. Like, Microsoft's marketing and strategy is not necessarily dependent upon being successful in the Asian market. Any success they have in the Asian market is a cherry on top. Their strategy is to be the Netflix of gaming, primarily in the West. That's what they want. The prediction I made that, like, there'll be an Xbox, xCloud, and a TV, and you'll have an Xbox controller that you Bluetooth to the TV and you just play Xbox games. The Xbox ecosystem is going to be everywhere. That's their goal. That's their plan. If you think Microsoft played nice with Epic to get Fortnite running in a browser just because that out of the goodness of their heart, no, that's part of the strategy. They want that ecosystem and that xCloud solution to be everywhere. You're going to, any device that you have that has access to fast internet, it's going to be able to play Game Pass, or Microsoft, xCloud games. 100%. They have that now on Samsung TVs. Yeah. I said that months ago before it was announced. I was like, oh yeah, Microsoft's strategy is good. They have a very sound strategy. They are wanting to do something that will potentially pay out very well for them. They will have a foothold in the market. Now, they've got to be careful because Netflix got a foothold in the market and Netflix ran out of money. And Microsoft Gaming Division may get told, hey, no more money from Dad. No more money from Dad. And that's the question. They're going to have to really start to prove the concept. They probably have a certain amount of time to start to show the revenue rudder turn to profit. But if that rudder doesn't turn well enough, they'll shutter it. Netflix is a cautionary tale. It is. It's a cautionary tale. You just spend all that money. And at the mention of price hikes or ads, on their cheapest levels of service, man, they lost tons of people. Losing The Office hurt, losing Star Trek hurt, losing Marvel hurt. Netflix had a lot of its value chopped clean off. You know what I mean? It's like when you trim your hedges and you trim it a little bit too far back and it looks terrible. It's like Netflix got so trimmed back. Like, they just kept losing significant things that people paid for. The rewatching of The Office was a huge thing that people love to do. Losing Marvel was huge. That really hurt them. When you can consistently put out, Marvel seasons, Daredevil, Punisher, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, losing that hurts, man. It hurts. Yeah, everybody was like, hey, streaming's pretty lucrative. Let's make our own service, because they probably get reports. I mean, how many reports did NBC get before they were like, holy crap, people love watching The Office over and over again? How many times did a Marvel piece of content get watched before Disney was like, crazy idea. What if we did that? Like, they likely see reports, and they're like, oh my gosh, what we should, that's our property, and they're making all the money on it. I'm watching Psych for the first time on Amazon right now. Such a great show. Yeah, I never really got into Psych. I had kids that loved it, that I was teaching them and mentoring and hanging out with them, and I just never could get into it. Microsoft says gaming and Xbox is profitable. Is the claim they're lying or just barely making profits? I thought the last reports that we looked at said that they weren't. It wasn't profitable yet. Now you're saying profitable. Are you misquoting? Are they like, oh, we're generating revenue, or our growth is good, or revenue generation is sound? Like, there's a lot of phrases they could use that don't necessarily mean profitable. They have 1 year in the black. Game Pass or the whole company. The Microsoft gaming division is not yet profitable. They're not yet in the green. They were in the red. They almost shut down. And Wheezy's saying they've had 1 year in the black. Microsoft has had 1 year of gaming being in the black in the past 21 so far, if I recall. They don't really report profits. Rewatched The Office so many times when it was on Netflix. Yeah, tons of people did that. It's so lucrative that AMC ended their bread and butter show, The Walking Dead, to avoid it being on Netflix instead of AMC Plus. Out of 20 years, they have like 6 total quarters of profit, says Eugene. Yeah. If you guys are just tuning in, we're kind of on a bunch of different topics, but we did talk Starfield release date theory. Really good discussion. Could we get 300 likes on the video? We shot out of a cannon this morning and did really, really well, and then something happened like an hour into the stream. I think YouTube, they might have had us on like a rotator or a runner, and they kicked us off of it. So we shot out of a cannon this morning, but we didn't ask for likes enough. I should have been asking for likes because we had so many people here. We should be on our way to 400 likes. I don't like disrupting the show to ask for likes. It's a huge bummer. Creature and I talked about this yesterday. Like, we need likes because they're helpful. But in the live environment, it's just so dumb to be like, can you guys press the like button? But in any case, we do. We need you to come in and press like every day if you can. We also benefit greatly from members and gifted members and coffee orders. We've actually not had any coffee orders today, so if you're a coffee drinker, be sure to check out reforgeroast.com. We have all the flavor profiles there. If you're a coffee snob, it'll be interesting to you because we have coffee with balanced acidity, and the coffee flavor profiles on the website tell you how we achieve that. We have officially dropped below 1,000 members. We have 861 members. So the gifted fallout is here. It is here. 1,000 members is required for Madden to be on cam on Friday nights. So you have between now and Friday to get us back up to 1,000. We've fallen quite a bit. People went nuts last month. We knew this was going to happen. It's no cause for alarm. But we have officially dipped below 1,000 members. 861. You guys must have went absolutely bonkers 30 days ago, because this morning we were at like 1,012. So we've lost a couple hundred. I pressed the like button and I won $10. Should try more often. Madam's expensive. Her on cam is expensive. She'll play with me on Friday nights, but you want her on cam. We do. We have member threshold incentives. We think that that's fair. You're trying. Yeah, it can't all be on Mr. Glum's shoulders. Listen, I have been saying this. I've been pretty candid. We don't want to lean on member gifting. We would really prefer people say, hey, there's a lot of value here. It's a great show. The dude almost never runs ads. They're doing members content all the time. I'm jumping in for $5. Like, we need more people to get committed and jump in. If you can't afford it, then ignore everything I'm saying. But if you can, we feel it's well worth it. It's tons of value. If you want her on cam, it's a crazy way to start the sentence. Yeah. Well, we were doing member streams with her for a while, and she was never on cam. So, redoing myself this Friday. All right, word, Frolly, word. I'll give some more. Again, you guys being super generous with gifted is amazing. I don't want every month to be like last month. We need gifteds to be like a cool regular thing, and then people jumping in on their own. They kind of need to work in tandem to maintain just good solid numbers for the channel, because we're trying to foster a culture on YouTube that's not here, okay? Typically, you probably come to YouTube, watch some videos, see some ads, you're good, you go on your way. Live streaming is a completely different animal. We don't do ads. We don't live off ads. We live off members. If you like 5 or 6 hours of live streams a day, which is what we do, the people that aren't members are like, oh man, members content's, he's doing tons of members content now. We're still doing 5 to 6 hours of live streaming a day for absolutely free. That only lives and dies on a member base. Like, we literally can't dedicate that amount of time to live streaming without a member base. And we have an amazing member base already. That's why we can do what we do. You guys going somewhere? Like, super early. Yo, my man Chris gifted 5, and they got grabbed really quick. Johnny, Narwaffle, Altair, Cage, and Grover. Super quick, guys. Make sure and thank Chris. Trying to get us back to 1,000 members. You the best, Chris. So I do know that, like, the YouTube audience and YouTube culture, sometimes they're like, oh man, members, this guy's asking for money. Again, live streaming is a different animal. We're almost never hitting you with ads. We just don't do it. Unless I literally step away, which I'm getting ready to do. I'm going to use the restroom real quick. And then I'll be back. We literally don't run ads during the show, babe. Until I do. We've got more to discuss. Elden Ring DLC leaks. Are they real? Are they fake? All right. Don't go anywhere. Become a member. Hit like. Hit subscribe. All those things. We still don't have 300 likes. Couple more likes. All right. All those things help the show. We just did 2.5 hours of debating and discussing virtually uninterrupted. Show some appreciation for the stream and that amount of content, but doing all the things. All right. Yo, 5 gifted members from Slewfoot. There's 5 more. Frank, Divine, Astrid, Dylan, and Caitlin all grabbed them. Guys, make sure and thank Slewfoot. Make sure and thank Slewfoot. That's very generous. Thank you, Slewfoot. And if you got a gifted membership last year, consider, again, jumping in on your own if you can, okay? I'll be right back. Again, we only run ads when I step away, so you're not missing content. I do not run ads during the show, okay? I'll be right back. Did you see streaming 1080-60? Yeah, we always stream 1080-60. What's he laughing at? Oh, my wife said something funny. Yeah, streaming higher than 1080 is just not worth it. It's just not. Because most people can't watch at the highers. Why 60? My camera is 60. The maximum frame rate in Discord OBS is 60 unless you go in and manually up it. The average refresh rate of devices that watch me is probably 60. Yeah, if you guys are taking advantage of any of the Prime deals, make sure and use my Amazon link. It's in the description below, or you can type !Amazon.com or Amazon, !Amazon. That's my affiliate link that does support me. You won't get a discount or anything, but if you're taking advantage of any of the Prime sales, I'm going to quickly eat now so I don't have to eat in the next stream. You look good for 60. Thank you. No, we don't stream on Purple. We're exclusively YouTube. Mm-hmm. A lot of people have been leaving that platform, the Purple platform. They've been coming over here. Lily Pichu just did. Myth just did. Zakuno did. Ludwig, Tin the Tap Man, Lupo, all of them. Veggie straws are so crunchy. I'm trying to eat them fast and away from the microphone. Is that for merch? Is what for merch? How dare you eat on stream? I try to eat so fast. It's probably not good for me, but... I'm not really I'm pretty technologically savvy, but I don't really look into resolutions and frame rates. What's the big deal between 60 and 120? No, the Amazon link is just an affiliate link. If you use that link before ordering anything on Amazon, it supports me. I mean, 120, it's just a higher refresh rate. There's monitors, that go up that high now. So, games going up that high, looking nice and smooth, Yeah, our merch will be on our own platform that we're currently designing. Our coffee web space just relaunched, reforgeroast.com. Channels is in your vacuum. Yeah, like I'm Kirby. Does it have worldwide shipping? The coffee will ship to regions outside of America, but not all regions. Yeah, Stray is next week. I really wanted to play that Loop one today. We probably should have. Isn't Loopmancer today? We might play that for the members, because I don't know if it's a big enough game to stream publicly. Loopmancer, is it similar to Loop Hero? I don't think so. Loopmancer is an action roguelike. It's actually not even playable right now. It's playable in 9 hours. It's a side-scroller like ninja. You look like kind of like a ninja with a sword. Action roguelike with multiple endings. It's set in a cyberpunk environment. You tried to visually pick out the differences between 60 and 120. Can't tell the difference. No, I did not finish Trek to Yomi. The parry was glitching out on me. It wasn't working right, and I didn't find the combat to be that entertaining anyway. I didn't think it was that great. Unfortunately. Loop Hero is definitely not stream worthy. You can't see the difference, but you can feel the difference. 60 to 120. Former Treyarch developer Tony Flame joins Deviation Games. He was the lead game designer on Black Ops Cold War, Black Ops 4. What's Deviation make? What's their game? Once you hit about 90 hertz refresh and higher, the only difference you'll notice is reaction time. Especially on twitchy shooters. Yeah, I think in the in twitchy shooters is definitely where you see people wanting it. Oh, it's a new studio they started last year. Okay. Well, they got a good piece of talent there in Tony Flame. That's a great name. I wonder if that's his real name. Right? Is that his real name? They announced a partnership a year ago with Sony. Tons of old COD devs developing a shooter for PlayStation. Like Johnny Blaze. Yeah, Tony Flay. Like a comic book name. Shutting the FPS discussion down right now. Go watch Linus Tech Tips for answers on frame rate and the noticeable difference there is. Well, I don't think people are saying that there isn't a difference. I think they're saying it's difficult to perceive the differences. Now, that's not true for everybody. Again, somebody that really wants to play competitively, like quick twitch shooter, they're going to notice, right? But to the average person, I think it gets harder and harder to detect the differences. Jimmy Sparks, Henry Fire, Billy Magma. What do you think is going to be the date for the next community game night? I think Hilly said he could do the 29th, didn't he? Because my brother's going to be here on the 5th. Sorry about that, Lono. I'm just tired of hearing it. That's all. I'm in a weird mood. Yeah, I didn't feel like anybody was acting like it's not a big deal or you can't, or there is no difference. I think people were just saying, yeah, you can't really see the difference. And that's subjective to the person. I can't remember what Hilly said. Did he say the 29th? Ooh. I think he said he could do the 15th, but that was too short notice. I think we should probably do the 29th and just spend all next week and the following week promoting it and trying to get more members and gifted members and, you know, really promote it again. Missed the last Fall Guys stream, unfortunately. Was looking forward to playing with y'all. He did say the 15th barrier. I know for a fact he can't do the 22nd. He might be able to do the 29th. Did PlayStation confirm that all their live services will be multi-platform? I think I remember something about that. They did say that with their live service games, I don't know if they said all of them, but I'm fairly certain they essentially said that they were open to them and very likely going to be multi-plat. They said something to that effect. I don't think they made like a concrete written in stone assurance that like every live service game we do will be multi-platform, but they essentially said that's their goal. All right, let me get these tweets going for the next stream. Elden Ring DLC leak. Point is, I'm looking to upgrade my TV without having a monitor solely for my console. So I guess what I'm really asking is, should I go 4K with 120, or will that be outdated soon, 8K? This console generation ain't hitting 8K. You don't need 8K. Yeah, I have a really, really good paragraph that goes through that, Wheeze. You still got to make the content, right? Can't be like, well, you know, but especially right now. There's not a lot of news out there. Okay. Excuse me. All right, there's the tweet. Yeah. I got a good breakdown. I wrote up a pretty good breakdown. pulling from two different articles, I think. All right, just in case redirect doesn't work, if redirect doesn't work, I'll put a link in chat. It's not really subjective, though. There's literal physical difference between the two rates. Your eyeballs are being fed twice as much information. It's only subjective if the person viewing the two refresh rates hasn't been exposed to differences and aren't tuned in to pick up said differences. So it's subjective. That's the point, right? The second half of what you're saying, it is subjective. It would be like saying the difference between listening to a CD and a really, really good vinyl is subjective. And you could be like, no, there are literal measurable auditory differences. Like an audiophile would educate us on that, would they not? But it is subjective because to the untrained ear, people are like, I can't tell the difference between a CD and a vinyl, right? So you can argue that there are physical, measurable, objective differences between something, but perception of it's always going to be subjective. Yeah, you literally define subjective. Being untrained doesn't make it subjective. It is subjective because it's something that is either listened to or perceived with, it's either perceived with your eyes or your ears, and that being detectable is subjective. Like, not everybody's going to be able to detect it. That makes it subjective. Whether they care or not is subjective. There's layers to subjectivity, right? There's the subjectivity of care. There's the subjectivity of being able to detect it, right? Like, yes, at a ground level, you could argue objective differences between CD and vinyl, or 60 and 120 FPS. You can argue the objective differences for sure, but whether or not someone's going to see it or hear it, that's subjective to the person. I'm like, I don't see it, I don't hear it. So, all right, we got to go to the next show. Elden Ring DLC leaks are here. Well, another one. It's getting shot down pretty quickly. What did you think? Do you think the Elden Ring DLC leak, is it true? Is it viable? Did it get your hopes up? The time frame of when it lands, the name, all of that. I'm going to give you a quick breakdown here at the beginning of the stream. That way you don't have to go hunting for it. If you missed my coverage, if you weren't here, make sure and hit subscribe and the bell button. We do live streams all throughout the week. I am safe for work, and a lot of people treat me like video game radio or a video game podcast. I'm actually going to end the previous stream from this morning. We talked Starfield. I'm going to bring those people over now with a redirect.